So I say most people believe there is something dramatically wrong in this country. They're not sure what it is.
Got your labor next your soul, interest slave in endless hole. It's so deep you'll never leave, a text on key with no reprieve. Interest banking, future sold, paper money, fuck the gold. Print more money, there's no end, new interest rates thanks to the Fed. Inflation's up, we can't afford to import, source an endless hoard. Funding all this endless war, these are whores I must ignore. Feeling good, yeah that's my price. The system lets me have my vice. Bread and circus feels nice, feeling bad, take this advice. Just take this pill, watch TV, smoke weed and chill. Sports ball parties, man the grill. Watch some porn, drain your vril. Endless pleasure, wait until the lights go out, the lights are out. Holy fuck, the lights went out. The lights go out, the lights are out. Holy fuck, the lights went out. Never thought that this would happen. Should've prepped instead of fapping. Tires screeching, people scream. Living nightmare, not a dream. There goes all my dopamine, wiping off my jerk-off cream. I'm flabby, weak and unprepared. Don't own a gun, I'm really scared. Water filters, batteries, cans of food and MREs. I really should've bought that shit before the social fabric ripped. Atomized, I'm all alone, no internet, can't scroll my phone. The lights go out, the lights are out. The lights go out. Came on, I can't believe, breathe a sigh of great relief. Boy, I love modernity, endless goon sesh never leave. If you're sad, just take this pill. Watch TV, smoke weed and chill. Stop all parties, man the grill. Watch some porn, join your grill. Endless pleasure, wait until the lights go out, the lights are out. The lights go out. The lights go out. The lights go out. The lights go out. The lights are out. Holy fuck, the lights went out. The lights go out. The lights are out. Holy fuck, the lights went out. The lights go out.
And we are live once again. I bet you thought we were dead, but we're not.
Live Dead is my name of my
Living
favorite,
Dead.
It's the name of my favorite live album ever recorded. Did you see my reshare?
No.
Okay, yeah. So I'm because live from Paris, Texas. I'm in Paris, Texas for the first time in my for the first time in my life. I'm in Paris, Texas.
So what is so great about Paris, Texas?
It's hard to explain. I mean, of course, there's a movie. You've seen the movie.
Sell me on it. Sell me on it. Like
there's no reason
to Paris, Texas Board of Tourism.
There's no reason to be here. There's a nice bakery that wasn't open today, so I'm going to go in the morning. But I'm on my way up and on one of my semi-regular treks into the Wichita Mountains, and I have a bench warrant out in the state of Arkansas, so I have to avoid Arkansas until it's time for me to hop the border. And this because there is no reason to be in Paris, Texas. That's kind of the point of Paris, Texas. So have you ever seen the movie?
Was that what's his name? Wes
Wenders. Wenders.
Vendor, yeah. I wanted to say Wes Wenders. Yeah. I have not seen it, but I do know that it is a classic Harry Dean Stanton vehicle.
It is. I mean, it's the one. It's like it is. It's the movie that most people who know him would know him from.
The hairiest, deeniest, Stantonist film.
Yeah. The reason is to get 4 of your best friends and start a new tech firm. That's Oh, that's funny. But okay, so Paris, Texas is a movie that it's my favorite movie ever. It's also the saddest movie I have ever seen. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but last week on Drive Time, of course, we watched
Wild at Heart.
Wild at Heart
by David Lynch, starring Nicolas Cage.
Starring Nicolas Cage with Harry Dean Stanton in tow, I would point out. And the ending of Wild at Heart, essentially, you know, there's that moment where he walks away and then he turns around and comes back. That is ultimately David Lynch being unwilling to accept the ending of Paris, Texas. Is what that is. That is like Wild at Heart itself is almost.
No, he had a beautiful family. He should return to them.
Well, I'll do spoilers. Okay, the whole movie Paris, Texas. It happens in the West Texas. Okay, Harry Dean Stanton is this character. You know, he's this the man from nowhere who just like flounces onto the hood of his brother's car almost.
Yeah.
And he's got amnesia, doesn't know where he is or anything like that. His brother takes him back to California and shows him home movies to recover his memories. And he's got a kid, like his child is there. And they go find his mother, and his mother's working at a peep show in Houston. But and then there's this just incredibly devastating scene with between Natasha Kinski and Harry Dean Stanton, where they're talking through a one-way mirror about sort of the relationship, the nature of their existence together prior to Harry Dean Stanton's crash out. And then the mother's reunited with the child, and then Harry Dean Stanton leaves.
Just fucks off.
Yeah, and it's one of the most gut-wrenching, sort of last thirds of a movie that you could ever fucking watch. But yeah, and the name of the movie is Paris, Texas. But Paris, Texas does not appear anywhere in the only time Paris, Texas appears in the movie is on this postcard with a vacant lot that says "for sale." And it just becomes, it's apparent that sort of Paris, Texas represents sort of domestic perfection that Harry Dean Stanton is never going to have. And
amazing.
When we watch,
so you are in Paris, Texas.
We watched Wild at Heart last week, and it's been a bunch of e-girls have all been posting Paris, Texas shit too. So it's been and it's been right at the front of my mind. And I'm headed up to Arkansas, and I was like, well, I'll just, we can have a little Texas as a treat. So I came to see what it looked like, and
doesn't look like much.
No, it's pretty much what I thought it was going to be. East Texas border, right on the Oklahoma border, shithole town. It's not a shithole. It's nice. It would be a nice place to live, but there ain't shit going on here.
I'm going to go on a trip to Cairo.
I've done that too.
Illinois.
I've done that. I have done that.
Yeah, how's Cairo, Illinois?
It's a lot like Paris, Texas.
It's a lot like more water.
No, we're on the Red River here, so it's
you're not on the Mississippi and the Ohio though.
No, the Red River I think is the third biggest river in the country. So it's not a small one.
I as a Midwesterner, I have to forever be a Mississippi stan.
I mean, I am too. I have a weird thing about the Mississippi River,
as a New Orleander.
Yeah,
I love the mouth of the Mississippi.
I was born in Blytheville, Arkansas, which is about 5 miles from the Mississippi River. Lived until I was 10. I lived until I was 8 in Memphis, which is on the Mississippi River. We moved to New Orleans. Then I spent a lot of time in Baton Rouge, where I lived right on the river. Most of my life has been lived on the Mississippi River, like Mark Twain, except I hate Mark Twain. And but astrologically, I have weird shit going on with the Mississippi River as well, which might explain quite a bit about me. My Venus line, as there's astral, I don't have to tell you this, I'm sure, but they're sort of geospatial mappings of your astrological, sort of your natal chart that can be projected across maps. And it just so happens that I was born almost directly on my own Venus line, and I've lived here most of my life. And so being near your Venus line sort of like activates the Venusian aspect in you. And it's my Venus is in Pisces.
It makes you trans. Is what
it's very psychedelic because I'm a very sensual person. I have a difficult time holding object permanence, and it's an intoxicating sort of thing, and it makes me sort of violent as well. But whatever.
You don't strike me as a violent person.
Oh, dude.
If you did strike me, you'd be a violent person.
Yeah. I have 3 out of 5 e-girls have eventually hallucinated that I was Satan.
Really?
Yes.
Out of is that 3 out of 5 that you've
this is 3 out of 5
association with, or just 3 out of 5 ever?
There's 3 out of the 5 that my association with has been long enough to go through more than one sort of emotional cycle with them.
Okay.
Were they
hallucinate you as the great deceiver?
Yeah. It usually works.
This world.
It usually works out. They initially find me sort of entrancing, alluring, and almost this impossible sort of figure to grab and hold on to. And then they always eventually start calling me immersive and disorienting. And
I think you're an immersive gaming experience.
And that's it. And then eventually in the final crash out, they will hallucinate that I'm stalking their apartments and eventually compare me to Satan. Yeah.
Excellent.
I haven't done any of that either.
You've never stalked an apartment. You're stalking the people in the apartment. Stalking an apartment is ridiculous. It doesn't. I don't
have the energy to do that. It's fuck.
I think you should get married to the next woman whose name is Rebecca that you meet.
Why Rebecca?
Because I think it would be funny if you had a 50-50 shot at marrying a Jewess.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of Jewesses, but there's a lot of like crazy ass Protestant women named Rebecca too.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
perfect.
Rebecca with a K or Rebecca with 2 C's.
REBEKAH.
Yes. By the way, the Cap, it's good to be back. By the way, Cap was like, we got to do something really interesting here, so people don't want to go watch the OGC. And now we're talking about esoteric spellings of Rebecca.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you want to talk about Albion's seed? Well, yeah. We'll talk about seed.
I would never tell them this. Actually, I have told them both this.
If you say anything about it, you are telling them right now.
Or they hear, it's like I think I've told Charlie this before. I was like the book's not that great. Oh man, I would love. People have asked me so many times to come on and talk about Albion Seed, and I refuse because the idea of talking about it fills my head with kaleidoscopic contradictions where on one hand, it's not a bad text. On the other hand, it's very historiographically dated to the 1980s, and it's actually formally a shitlib book. And but again, until I write my history book, which is coming, by the way, okay, so this will give you, and I'm just rambling now, but to give you an indication of the way my brain works, I will not do something. Whenever I decide to sit down and do something, I have to almost break something down to its vestigial components. So poetry, I started writing poetry. Well, I've written poetry my whole life. I started publishing poetry in part so I would have an excuse to fuck around with typesetting. And in order to fuck around with typesetting, I had to write my own typesetting program. So I've got the typesetting program written now. Okay, so I can typeset my fucking books that I'm going to ask you all to buy. But the way this works, there are now 2 books of poetry, and then there is a novel that is 2/3 written, an outline for another novel, and then I will do.
Wait, I thought you deleted all of these when you purged your
my Iranian friend who has known me long enough, or like actually I can't remember if it was him. Somebody who has known me long enough recovered them.
The Ayatollah himself.
There are in fact people who know me well enough to be like, and like they didn't tell me initially that they'd done it too. Like they know me well enough to know that you have to let the crash out run its course, and then you just like sort of like just like slide back in and be like, oh yeah, I saved.
How many Max Broads does Sandbatch have?
How many what?
Max Broad.
Who is that?
The best friend of Kafka who refused to delete his friend's life's works in contradiction to Kafka's.
Yeah, I hate that shit, dude. I saw some bitch on here. Saw some bitch on this website, and she was kind of cute, but she was talking about how she just published T.S. Eliot's like edited and published T.S. Eliot's letters, and I'm like, yeah, he like specifically requested that no one do that ever. Well, vultures.
Guess what? When you're dead, fuck you.
Yeah, that's true. Death of the author. I also like
literal death of the author. That's right.
I hate Kafka. I
don't hate Kafka. I can't stand it. I like Kafka. I like Kafka. You know who hates Kafka? You know who hates Kafka? Well, fuck. Now I'm blanking on his name. The God Delusion. The God Delusion.
Who is the God?
The fucking new atheist dickhead.
Oh, Pinkerton.
No. He
Water.
No, it's the one who did the one who used the selfish gene.
Dawkins, Richard Dawkins.
There we go. Yeah, Dawkins had that incredible Cole post about how bad Kafka's Metamorphosis is.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it so much. Gabe says, how can anyone online hate Kafka? And I don't handle body horror. And
most of it's just contract horror. People don't give Kafka enough credit. People just say it's Kafka-esque whenever there's a bureaucracy.
It's like, what is there's
it's contract horror
there is like a contract dispute. It's so Jewish. There's like a contract dispute that precipitates a suicide. Like, what the hell? It's been a long time since I read it.
Honestly, contract disputes, pretty comming cause of suicide.
Yeah,
if you really think about it.
It's one of the valid reasons. Being publicly emasculated by an e-girl, the only way you can save face is to light yourself on fire on a live stream.
So true.
I can't say that live. I can't say things like that live.
You did though.
Yeah.
So
I'm going on the real ass radio here in a couple of weeks. And like I'm gonna have to remind myself.
Are you gonna be on during regular time or during Safe Harbor?
What is Safe Harbor? I don't even know the rules.
Safe Harbor is after there's a certain time where it's cut off where the FCC doesn't care what you say.
Oh, then no, it's gonna be regular hours. It's a morning show.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to watch your shit. You drop an N-bomb, they'll pull their license.
Yeah. No. Gabe says Dallas Fort Worth also discussed the intrinsic humor of Kafka. Okay, David Foster Wallace. I read. Have I been on here since I read?
It's not okay. So Kafka is obviously humorous. Like it's meant to be. Humorous. It's meant to be darkly humorous. So I don't. Yeah.
It's like funny in the same way the boomer Jews who were sitting behind me in the cafe today lost their shit and started screeching about how all of the white people are going to turn on us. That really happened to me. This is the first time I'd ever heard Jews get murderous about white people in public. But this like tattooed, the tattooed music, like boomer with the fedora on and his wife with the mandala earrings. They were sitting in the cafe behind me and they were talking about online anti-Semitism, and I perked up and started listening. And eventually the dude crashed.
And you said, you best start believing in real life anti-Semitism.
It almost went that way. Okay, so like he got arbitrary. Like, it wasn't just me listening at this point; it was everyone in the building that was listening, because he's like, these fucking white people are going to turn on us, and they're gonna kill all the Jews. They're going to turn on the Jews, and then his wife, with not calming him down, his wife said, "It's not just white people now, it's all of them." They said that live and in person, and I turned around and I was like, can you say that again into my recording device?
Yeah. You may have heard of me from a certain list compiled by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
You may know me,
and I just want you to know.
You may know me from such alt-right cult classics as Rebel Yell, what was it? The pause button, so on and so forth. Gabe asked for an update on Infinite Jest. I finished reading it, and it was okay.
It was fine. It was okay. It was a whole lot of okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I should not have read it. There's both of those guys, David Foster Wallace. Now that I've read it,
Twitter handles and Sandbatch could not hold himself. Amazing.
The thing I've got about David Foster Wallace now that I've read a bit of him, and then also Penchon, is that these are two dudes that prove my take that there is no such thing as the novel after Vladimir Nabokov. He destroyed the form so thoroughly, nobody can put it back together. You can tell there's a lot of preoccupation with Nabokov in both of them, especially I would say in Infinite Jest.
So, as much as I love and appreciate the literature talk, which keeps us on brand for the Tookies Mag channel, or at least it is fighting against the tide of video game slop garbage that someone keeps putting on YouTube. I have to say that Gary Allen and Larry Abraham, who we have not mentioned at all in this particular episode.
It's the Paris, Texas episode where we just
that's right. But neither of them are rise to the level of Pynchon or Nabokov or Kafka or Mark Twain, or as far as Gary Allen's concerned, I mean, probably not even R.L. Stine. But Larry Abraham has kind of picked it up in the second half. They had us in the first half, not going to lie. But I think that Larry Abraham has kind of picked it up. And since we've picked up the book again, I think we're going to have like a very brief chapter here on Gerald Ford. And we're probably going to get through 2, maybe 3 chapters, because there's not a whole lot to say about old Gerald.
There is almost nothing to say about Gerald Ford. Like I have
a
graduate degree in American history, and I know almost nothing about him.
The most interesting thing about him is that he is the person credited with the magic bullet theory on the Warren. He was on the Warren Commission.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like literally, like even when he was president, I mean, like it's still like definitely Gerald Ford, because he was alive until recently. Like,
yeah.
He died not too long ago.
He was a healthy man. One of the chattest presidents.
I think he's probably the chattest president.
You think he's more Chad?
Yeah, I know where you're going with that. And,
look, everyone. Look, the normie answer is Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh God, no! I was gonna say, I mean, like
Andrew Jackson.
It's Andrew Jackson. There's like no like there is almost no one alive today who could live in the world that Andrew Jackson lived in. Like he was just had like,
yeah, most people would have died in one of the many duels.
But if not that, like his like brain was fried from yellow fever. He had like rheumatism, like because they would get these viral illnesses that would just debilitate them and give them like lazy eyes and shit. Like they'd be all deformed. They lived on corn pone and fucking salt pork. There was no clean water to drink. They were always dehydrated. They just drank whiskey all day. And then they were incredibly violent. Yeah, there's nobody alive today who could like go toe to toe with it. Andrew Jackson is one of the most physically and historically terrifying people ever. Like that's a scary motherfucker.
Very true. But Gerald Ford is Chadley in the in the sort of mid-century way, where he was he was a football player, kind of a big dumb lug, real good team player. He would have been a great Tammany Hall operative because he was just on the side of the Democrats, and that's all it took.
Yeah, he's
Republicans. Sorry,
he's a team player. Michigan. Yeah. I think he was a fighter pilot, and I think he was a naval pilot in World War II.
He just didn't ever have a single independent thought, and that is an amazing quality for a political operative.
God, I wish I never had a single independent thought.
You too could. All you need to do is get DDD'd by someone who's a normie. Get DDD'd by normiedom. That's what you need.
Need big titty DDD girlfriend.
All right. In any case, we're going back to it. The unelected Ford and Rockefeller, Chapter 9 of Call It Conspiracy. When the President of the United States resigned because he was about to be impeached and convicted, he was replaced by an appointed number 2 man who had never been elected to any public office at state or national level. He really prefigured Kamala Harris, right? Gerald Ford had been elected to the House of Representatives every 2 years since 1948. He became House Republican leader in 1965, and following the resignation of Spiro Agnew, Ford became the vice president under the provisions of the 25th Amendment to the Constitution, which 1967 change had been supported by, among others, New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller.
Oh, man.
Oh, no, a Rockefeller.
I forgot about this.
Governor Rockefeller had resigned from his Albany office in late 1973 to run for president in 1976, albeit in a thinly disguised role as head of the National Commission on Critical Choices for Americans. But there are more ways than one to skin a cat, gross, or grab the presidency. In any event, Rockefeller was ready and willing when on August 20th, 1974, President Ford nominated him vice president. Shortly after, on September 8th, a presidential pardon was released in the Oval Office, reading in part, "Now, therefore, I, Gerald R. Ford, President of the United States, pursuant to the pardon power conferred upon me by Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, have granted and by these presents do grant a full, free, and absolute pardon unto Richard Nixon for all offenses against the United States, which he, Richard Nixon, has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 20th, 1969 through August 9th, 1974.
I think that's your best impression yet.
Really?
But I think that's kind of what he sounded like.
Yeah.
I think that's like, it's kind of pretty close to your, no, not really. I don't really know what he sounded like. It's like,
he had a slight sort of Southern lilt, like many, like the standard media accent or the standard American accent was slightly Southern sounding until approximately the 1980s when the media standard accent changed to like basically a Chicago suburbs accent.
Is that when that happened? It's later.
It's later than you might. It's because the millennials are the ones who lost the regionalism.
Yeah.
When the president, from Tarrytown, New York, for the public consumption, Vice President designate Rockefeller called the pardon an act of conscience, compassion, and courage, and stated that President Ford's action was undoubtedly controversial in the short run, but promising in the long run that it would speed the healing of our nation. Rocky had been in the business for the long run and could not lose in the short run by his granting of approval. Nevertheless, as Newsweek for September 2nd, 1974, acknowledged, the Nixon presidency was a painful period for the proud governor. Privately, friends say, Rockefeller despised the self-made man from Yorba Linda. Still, it is best not to be caught gloating over a regicide, whether figurative or not. Nelson Rockefeller had come within a proverbial heartbeat of the presidency, and Gerald Ford had said upon his own nomination for vice president that he had no further ambitions. So close was Rocky. Squeaky Fromm came close too, but she didn't know that she was supposed to cock that .45 automatic. It didn't go off, she wailed. Did you just crack a cold one?
Yeah, let's just call it a beer.
Sure. It could be any cold one. A refreshing Coca-Cola would be a cold one.
It's like the crowd goes fucking ape shit when I give away, but it's RC
Cola. It's royal crap.
It's a highly concentrated THC solution, is what it is.
Ugh. Is this like a Delta 8 seltzer or something?
No, it's a real thing.
Ugh, nasty. But before Ford's ascension to the number one spot, there were hints that the compromising Jerry might not be so malleable once he tasted the power that went with being president. John Herbers wrote in the New York Times on October 14th, 1973, if Mr. Ford does turn out to be an activist vice president, as the president expects, Mr. Ford's friends say he is almost certain to seek the presidency. I have no intention of being a candidate for any office, president, vice president, or anything else in 1974, Mr. Ford said today. Some Republican leaders, however, do not take seriously such a disclaimer. Melvin R. Laird, presidential assistant who spent many years in Congress with Mr. Ford and who was at least partly responsible for his selection as the vice presidential nominee, said he expects the 60-year-old congressional leader to become a presidential contender. He's qualified, Mr. Laird said. He does not fit the caretaker role. Power is heady stuff, so as expected, Ford did run. Rockefeller, who had frequently declared that he would not take the number 2 slot, did just that under President Ford. Had not Jerry in 1973, when he was still vice president, said of Rocky that he had been a superb governor and very definitely presidential timber. But once that brass ring was in Ford's grasp, the 1976 race became a clash of ambitions. Even insiders can't control the longings of men who have spent their lifetime in the political arena. However, the story of how close Rockefeller came to attaining his goal of the Oval Office is a telling one in the annals of conspiracy. Hindsight also shows how the exposure of conspiracy can foil the prospects of even the most powerful of establishment men. How would you have felt if there? How do you feel that the John Birch Society would have felt if a Rockefeller became president?
Like, look at you, find an e-girl that looks at you the way Gary Allen looks at conspiracies about the Rockefeller family. Speaking of e-girls, by the way, one more time, it's good to be back with you all as well. Oswald Art says Sandbatch cracking open an e-girl bathwater.
So true.
Yeah.
That's
the THC
right.
drink, dude. I tell you all, I don't drink. Like, I've been this way. I have not ever said anything about it. I'm not a pothead, but it is my preferred. It is my preferred non-hallucinatory intoxicant.
That just means you're not. That just means you're not having enough of them.
Yeah, it's true. I've been like this since. I've been like this since before you all even knew what Twitter was. So this is like one of these things that
I've never changed. I was born to be on Twitter, and then Twitter came along.
Yeah,
you're like the caveman who was the greatest violinist ever.
No, exactly.
Like just the violin didn't exist at the same time, tragically.
But I mean, like, everybody knows this about me. I'm not exactly the most orthodox right winger in the world. I've just been like, I've been like this since I was like 20. You know, fuck. It's like I've cut. I'm such a boring person. I've cut almost all of my habits down. This is like the last one that I still have. So don't fucking.
The only habit I've got left is this here methamphetamine. I've only got one habit. All y'all have a bunch of habits.
Well, speaking of, I belong in the Jackson era. I can drink whiskey all day long and be highly functional. Funny story. In his journals, and especially during the Seminole campaign, Andrew Jackson banned his soldiers from drinking whiskey and instead gave them weed to smoke, because he said they woke up when they were smoking weed, they woke up on time and they could shoot straighter.
Huh.
Yep.
Believable. Honestly believable. Yeah. The wake and bake is like a weird. I've never done a wake and bake. Not even in the dog days of college, but I don't understand that. It seems like you're really like setting yourself up for failure.
FBI informant asks for source. I saw the primary document. I'm sure it's printed in a book somewhere.
Andrew Jackson revealed it in a dream.
Yeah, it's some like. Sometimes y'all ask me for shit, and it's like, he was like, you got a sauce on that, buddy? And I'm like, it's me. I'm the source. You know,
I'm life. And so Oswald Art, just so you know, I haven't smoked weed in well over 15 years, and also I am lifetime so far ahead financially on drugs because of my participation in the completely legal industry of cannabis sales. But neither here nor there. You just
sell it, but you didn't smoke it?
No, the legal industry. I was never
interesting.
Anyway, let's not worry.
We're just incriminating ourselves here now.
I'm not incriminating the legal industry. I'm not incriminating myself.
It was me that incriminated myself. I'm like, I got a bench warrant out in Arkansas. You know, like, what the heck?
That's right. Let's see here. All right. Moving up the establishment power structure has always meant moving politically left. Oh, so true. This is again just another example of this book prefiguring everything that neo-reactionaries said.
Did you see my crash out about Kurdish Yarvin yesterday? No, you don't watch Twitter like I do. I'm almost as bad as Geo. I'm worse than Geo is now. I'm like at like peak Geo.
Clip that. Someone clip that. Clip that.
But like, God, that young Pareto was like talking about, like, Curtis apparently did an essay yesterday where he was like, "Oh, I'm coining the phrase the modernist right." I'm like, "You coined the phrase modernist right?" Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And like, young Pareto's like, "Oh, can I get a source on that claim? I'm happy to give credit to Curtis Yarvin." And I just fucking went off.
Oh my God.
About sources for like 3 hours yesterday.
Well, here, just say it was revealed to you in a dream. The ghost of the tortured soul of Andrew Jackson was released from hell to deliver a message.
Oswald on fire today. Sandbatch incriminating himself on Library of Mass Destruction Groper.
It's not really an episode of LMD without Sandbatch incriminating himself for something or other. Wendy Painting has forgiven you for stalking her. By the way,
did that really happen? Did she said something about it? I was like, listen, I only said that because I assumed there's no way you were listening.
Beautiful. And just a little follow-up on that, because I've mentioned it on a previous episode. The good Dr. Painting has in fact delivered unto me a bounty of options for the book to follow, call it Conspiracy. So I'll be winnowing those down a little bit, and we'll have a real banger for the next one. So
Gary Allen.
No more Gary Allen.
This shit.
Yeah. Let's see. Has always meant moving politically left. It was no exception with Ford. What some would call unprincipled is a plus in the eyes of the ambitious. And Vice President Jerry Ford's history, noted the establishment's Washington Post on October 14th, 1973, was such that it indicated he, in short, is a political pragmatist, said an admiring Democratic chairman in Ford's Grand Rapids district. As quoted in the Post, he's managed to be all kinds to all people. Take the domestic field. He'll vote against programs, say, hot lunches for school kids. But once it's passed, he uses his influence to get as big a share of the money for the district as he can. He has the best of both worlds. Jerry's been an expert at that. Indeed, Ford sought to reassure a congressional committee looking into his confirmations as vice president that he was no conservative ideologue, stating proudly, I am a moderate on domestic issues, a conservative in fiscal affairs, and a dyed-in-the-wool internationalist.
That's
what
the worst
one almost expected him to say,
heard.
Yeah, exactly. One almost expected him to say, I'm so broad I couldn't be expected to be deep. Amazing.
Literally, it's like, yes. Do you remember that meme of who's that Rob Lowe? Where he's just wearing he's at the like Cowboys game and he's just wearing the hat that just says NFL on it. It's like I have no opinions of my own. I just support the system.
Yes, football. It's like I enjoy all of the league.
Ford is the last president that was not in his own way some type of weird, who at least didn't run on the idea of being an ideological like extremist of some, and of course he didn't get elected. I don't know who the last president we got elected who wasn't running on a platform of extremism of some sort is.
I actually think it might have been Herbert Walker Bush.
Oh yeah, that's true. I always forget he fucking happened because I've been MK Ultra thoroughly.
Yeah, the CIA wants you to forget that they had a president. Yeah. Indeed, Ford saw, oh, never mind. That dean of the Council on Foreign Relations for the New York Times, James Reston, reassured one and all when Ford was nominated as Nixon's backup man, saying Jerry doesn't pose a serious threat to the Democrats in the 1976 elections. The Timesman continued, Ford's private record is better than his public record. As a party leader, he has defended the party line, no matter how it twisted. In Congress, as on the line under University of Michigan's great coaches at Ann Arbor, he followed the signals. President Eisenhower was against American intervention in Vietnam at Dien Bien Phu. He was against intervention. President Nixon later on was in favor of intervention in Vietnam or opposed to accommodations with the communists or eager for accommodations. Jerry was a faithful Ford, obeying the commands of the driver. He rose in the Republican Party by being faithful to Sam Rayburn's first law of politics: to get along, go along. And it is almost painful now to read his public defense of spectacular stupidities in the past. But privately, in the endless cloakroom discussions on how to resolve practical, personal, and political dilemmas on ambiguous questions, his record is quite different. Accordingly, even his Democratic opponents like him personally. This probably explains why President Nixon picked him and why Congress doubtless will accept him. Yeah, just a fucking golden retriever of a man.
I mean, there's like even pictures of him, just aura of golden retriever. It's like who's that character from Twin Peaks, Major Brigg or whatever. It's like if he were president, except without the cool CIA shit,
Hey, have you heard about the Council on Foreign Relations?
Right. Some like any like sort of vaguely patriarchal looking father from a sitcom in the 60s or 70s. That's Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford is the Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
Like I think actually Homer Simpson is supposed to be somewhat based on Gerald Ford.
Yeah, that would be about right. And I know because I know the Simpsons have done Gerald Ford shit before. Like he's definitely been, or maybe that was Futurama. I think Gerald Ford is one of the heads that the head.
Well, all of the presidents are heads in a jar.
Yeah,
like all of them get a head in the jar. Yeah. Nixon had proclaimed the Ford nomination a new beginning for America. Though when he made the announcement of Ford's selection, he offered no explanation of Spiro Agnew's demise. Commented James M. Naughton, the president gave no rationale for his own role in arranging the bartered agreement by which Mr. Agnew escaped imprisonment in exchange for disclosure of detailed evidence assuring his public disgrace. Thus, as if the unmentioned Agnew scandal had been a piece of good fortune, Mr. Nixon declared that he was ready to share with all of you the decision to nominate as vice president a veteran of 25 years in the Congress, a man who shared the president's views on the critical issues of foreign policy and national defense, and an understudy capable of taking over if the responsibilities of the great office I hold should fall upon him. It is believed that President Nixon had two lists for a possible vice president. The high-risk option included Nelson Rockefeller, Ronald Reagan, and John Connally. The low-risk option, numbered 5, Senators Barry Goldwater. Oh, man, imagine if it was Goldwater of Arizona, Robert Griffin of Michigan, Hugh Scott of Pennsylvania, and White House counselor Mel Laird and Jerry Ford.
When did Barry Goldwater die? I feel like it was like he lived for fucking ever. I feel like
Barry Goldwater is still alive.
He died in 1998. So
Barry Goldwater is still alive, surviving on nothing but silver. Whatever the hell that shit is that people like to take that turns them blue.
Silver nitrate is.
I don't think it's not silver nitrate. It's like amylated silver or some shit like that.
Oh, yes. Can't think of the name of it. Colloidal silver.
Colloidal silver, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Goldwater is still alive, sitting in a vat of colloidal silver, bright blue, slowly morphing into a navigator from Dune.
But Goldwater's paternal grandfather, Michel Goldwasser, a Polish Jew, was born in
Richard Reeves in A Ford, Not a Lincoln states outright that Gerald Ford was not Ronald Reagan's first choice. He was his last choice in more ways than one. In the privacy of his own White House, Nixon had contempt for Ford, to the point, according to one man on the president's staff at the time, that he had Haig deliver the good news to Ford because he literally could not bring himself to do it. Haig, of course, was the longtime Kissinger surrogate who later was to bring the bad news to President Nixon, namely that it was time to go. Meanwhile, Gerald Ford seemed determined to show himself to be a man in the New World Order boys could trust to do their bidding. The vice president designate told the inquiring senators that he was an internationalist and that Henry Kissinger was a superb Secretary of State. Richard L. Strout, a longtime favorite of the left who often wrote under the pen name of TRB, reported in the Christian Science Monitor, a favorite organ of the insiders for decades. Questions were put to Mr. Ford on the basis of what he would do if he were president, in the first such congressional confirmation ever held. Mr. Ford went down the line supporting the Nixon-Kissinger rapprochement and détente policies with the communist world, and in some cases seemed to carry them further. Mr. Ford said he favored exploratory review of the rigid policy to Cuba, with the possibility of ultimately relaxing it. As it happened, Ford became the first member of the House of Representatives since John Nance Garner in 1932 to go directly to either the vice presidency or presidency. Some of the big boys had an eye on Jerry for a long time. As far back as 1952, Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, the sponsor of the secretive Bilderberger meetings, visited Ford's district to help out the congressman, and Jerry himself attended their hush-hush conclaves in 1962 and 1964. The internationally prestigious and powerful Bilderbergers, as an observant conservative U.S. representative has pointed out, continue to manipulate the world's finances in a conspiracy to convert the world into a feudal system in which every phase of individual liberty is subject to the whim of their veto. Who do you think said that?
Is that Gary North?
I don't know. We'll find out because it's number 4, and there's not that many. Citation number 4, and there aren't that many in this. There's not that long of a chapter here.
I feel like you already know the answer, though.
I don't know the answer. It's going to be a secret to it's going to be a surprise for everyone. Yeah. Would good old Jerry get involved in secret deals and cover-ups? Would you believe the Warren Commission, where he served with such notables as John J. McCloy? He didn't always play ball without a protective helmet, and he publicly bought the finding of the Warren Commission, or so he said of the conclusions of the panel on which he served to investigate the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Virtually nobody believed, or yet believes, the anti-conspiracy line had hardened down by that commission. A line handed down. Yeah. No one believes the golden or the magic bullet. Nobody believes that. They didn't believe it then. There was maybe a time where a reasonable percentage of the population believed it, but it hasn't ever been even close to anyone. For most of history, it's been like half at most.
Can you imagine, like, a president or even a major politician in the United States making up something totally that nobody fucking believes?
Yeah, wasn't that a crazy idea? Who would ever? You think someone would do that? Just attain the presidency and tell lies?
You could be like some shit. Like, you could just put a lot of people's name on a list and say they're sex offenders, and like, then you could just come back through one day also and say there was never a list, actually. You know?
Can you imagine how retarded they are, that instead of saying yes, here's the list, and it being just a list of every single Democrat in Congress,
right,
and every single federal judge appointed by a Democrat, and then like 2 token Republicans or something, they just said that there wasn't one. They didn't even bother to make one up.
See, this is the question. This is one of these weird moments where I'm not, and that's the only thing I'm going to say about this. There's one of these moments where I wonder if I'm too MK Ultra pilled or not nearly MK Ultra pilled enough. You know, like if these fucking brilliant ass people who are like, if the Council on Foreign Relations is clever enough to get everyone to believe almost without question that there's a list of people on a list, there's a piece of paper with a list of names that we could just like instantly turn public opinion against forever, and they don't put their fucking enemies' names on this list.
Exactly.
You know?
Now,
I'm like, obviously, what are they doing then?
Now, not necessarily, obviously, because sometimes people do retarded things. But if you were an intelligence operative for, say, our greatest ally, and but you were also a complete, total pervert and degenerate, you might have a sort of a brief list of things, or like some sort of dead drop, something that would be not the same as reams and reams of information, something like a list that you could release very easily. Now, I'm not saying that thing exists, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that one might have been created from all of the, mountains of compromise that Epstein had possession of.
Right.
But let's just say that a specific list never existed, and you would have to compile all of the people that he had compromise on,
right,
that was related to sex crimes.
I was like, yeah, you know what? Fucking Doge fired the list compiler guy. We don't have one anymore.
Wow, that's crazy. sorry, I thought it was on my desk, but it wasn't. Yeah, why'd you say it was on? Anyway, it's been poor. That's been poorly handled. But yes, if you are trying to wield power in a way that is completely, amoral, you should put your enemies on the list. Just put your enemies on the list. Just say there.
We can put a little enemies on the list as a treat,
Either way, you are lying, right? Either way, you are lying either way, and one is transparent and doesn't help you, and one is transparent and maybe does help you. So, like, I don't know, like, makes me think that probably there's no 4D chess going on. But maybe that's why they did it, because it was a transparent fuck up. It makes you think they're not playing 4D chess, but they are.
Internet enjoyer has got me. Because boomers try to seriously engage with what
feudalism was and not use it as a metaphor for power differentials and authoritarian challenge. Impossible.
Maybe there was an obscure Southeast Asian theorist that was
Weedolism. No, I mean that's true. See, this time period, they'd say feudalism if they wanted to signal right, and they'd say fascism if they wanted to signal left. And now everyone just says fascism.
Yeah, fascism. It's
like, what do you actually want? Authoritarian feudalism. That's what I actually want. Mehdi Hassan.
I actually believe that strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is the only legitimate basis for a system of government.
I want to go on Jubilee. I want there to be like,
what the fuck is Jubilee?
It's the thing where it's the circle jerk thing. It's the where there's like some famous pivot man and 20 lobies come and harass them in person.
So wait, I could get on this?
You could definitely get on that.
Oh man.
A bunch of like 5,000 follower accounts were in the one where they, told Mehdi Hassan to go back to Africa.
See, I just became aware of whatever this Jubilee shit is a couple of days ago. Is that what Hunter Biden went on? Is that what Hunter Biden was on?
Hunter Biden did not go on that. That would be fucking hilarious. Hunter Biden versus 20 Ukrainian debt collectors.
No, man. I watched his interview today and I loved every minute of it. I was like, this is incredible. I was like, he should have endorsed my dick for president in 2028, called the audience and call the audience incels. You go entirely made up 20-minute rant about the history of the Ukrainian drilling industry. Like just
white American males commit violent crimes 45 times as often as illegals.
Within 5 minutes, he was talking about smoking crack. It was incredible. I've never seen a guy do this before.
Yes, beautiful. Oh my God. Sandbatch forcibly dragged out of the Jubilee debate panel for citing e-girls as his argument scraper. There needs to be Radfem Hitler versus various e-girl respecters. I don't know. Could Geo get through that? He'd have to be in the 20.
I wonder if Radfem Hitler's clout has fallen yet enough to where she's in my shooting distance.
You might want to work on your phrasing there, because the whole reason that she locked her account was because someone had literal shooting distance calculations.
Oh, that's so true. That did happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly don't rate. But if one of my mutuals cites me in a mass violence event, I will be sad and don't do that. But it is some kind of an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, this is. But on the other hand, it's good for the algorithm.
Well, the numbers did go up.
Yeah,
sir, that's the death toll. Yeah.
Wendy Painting is writing a book about it.
Oh God. Allegedly, her book is well over 1,000 pages and growing.
Oh my God.
I need volume 1. I need volume 1 of whatever it is.
We actually don't. The technology to bind this all in one text still doesn't exist yet. It's gonna have to be broken up.
LMD should just be reading her rough drafts. That's what it should be. We should just be the alpha testers for everything Wendy writes.
It's like, look, I know this is wild, but we're just gonna use 3 hours of one weekend every afternoon. We're gonna read your shit to 500 people, and
That's
then
right.
maybe make some off-color comments. You know,
a weird pitch, but all right. All right. So let's see here. There's somewhere. I'm not even sure where the fuck I left off. All right.
Well, I'll be right.
Would good old Jerry get involved in secret deals and cover-ups? Would you believe the Warren Commission, where he served with fuck my life? And how about a bargain between Ford and Nixon? Jerry repeatedly denied a fix, saying there was no trading off for the presidency. Yet, according to Seymour Hersh, the day before the Watergate pardon was announced, Nixon called Ford, a lawyer representing Jerry, then said, to be San Clemente negotiating with the former president, and made a threat to his successor. Wrote Hersh in his 2,000-word article, Nixon's message was blunt. According to those few White House aides who knew of the private call, if Ford did not grant him a full pardon, he, Nixon, was going to go public and claim that Ford had promised the pardon in exchange for the presidency because Ford was so eager to get it. Obviously, this contradicts Ford's testimony before the House Judiciary Subcommittee, wherein he flatly declared, at no time after I became president on August 9th, 1974, was the subject of pardon for Richard M. Nixon raised by the former president or anyone representing him. In any event, conservatives again found themselves being sold out by a man they were told was one of theirs. Still, Ford insisted, I don't think that I have deviated from my basic philosophy, which of course was to go along with the flow to the left. President Ford, by the fall of 1974, was saying he didn't think his own initiatives fall on the political spectrum left or right. You see, this time his public line had changed concerning the presidency. I'll probably be a candidate in 1976. Moreover, Ford had offered his view, absurd on its face. I believe that anybody to the right of me, Democrat or Republican, can't win a national election. Scarcely a month into the Ford presidency, there were rumbles on the right. Conservatives, noted syndicated columnist Jeffrey Hart, say that every prominent move the new chief executive made has so far vectored to the left politically. The catalog is by now a familiar one. His amnesty proposals, his reversal on Rhodesian Chrome, his support for the Equal Rights Amendment, his meetings with the Black Caucus, his support for mass transit and health insurance legislation, his nomination of Nelson Rockefeller to the vice presidency. The left was gleefully the ERA. Thank God for Phyllis Schlafly, the most based woman in history, for defeating the Equal Rights Amendment.
She's such a terrifying person.
I mean, yeah, no, she's a fucking psycho hatchet man.
But you ever watch interviews with her? She's like a legitimately like spooky, like intimidating person.
Who?
Phyllis Schlafly. Yeah.
I mean, it's just fucking I mean, what she was basically the fucking female Kissinger. You know, some people, I mean, obviously focused on domestic policy, but some people say that the female Kissinger is Hillary Clinton. Not even fucking close. Shadow of the man.
Yeah.
But Phyllis Schlafly had that killer instinct and is proof that there are some women who can get and wield political power effectively.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is it's not a would for me. It's a no for me, dog. That's how like that's how like intimidating I find her. I'm like, you're like cognitively more of a man than me.
Interesting. I'm gonna see. I actually don't know what she looked like young Phyllis. Oh, actually, she looked a fucking shitload like Hillary Clinton. That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, she's attractive in like a bouffant, like late mid-century kind of way.
Yeah. Young Phyllis Schlafly is. Yeah, she was fine. She was fine. She had a short business like haircut.
Yeah,
that's right. Anyway, the Iron Bulbous Persona, the Iron Philly. Yes. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you spell it with an F?
Yeah, PH. PHYLLY.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's an incredible name for a racehorse, by the way.
The Iron Philly.
Yeah.
Just being named after Phyllis Schlafly.
Yes. Yes.
What you could just name a racehorse Phyllis Schlafly. I bet you that it hasn't been used.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yes, EL. Thank you for that one, which we will not read aloud. But yes.
Did she say that?
I don't know, but I'm gonna say yes.
It's almost like it's like Sean Connery talking about beating women. Like, sometimes you just gotta rough them up. It's like, dude, it's 1995. That's way.
It's 1995. Chill out.
Yeah.
The left was gleefully watching the same turn of events. Speaking of 1995, did you know that Theo Huxtable died today?
Did he really?
Yeah. The oldest Cosby kid has passed on from this world.
And Bill Cosby still alive?
Bill Cosby is still alive. He is still alive in rape prison. Yeah, Theo Huxtable, the guy who played him, he drowned in a pool. Yeah.
Did he have any known contacts with the Obamas?
Oh no. No. It was a real pool. Yeah, so something that any person who can't swim could drown in.
See, how does that even happen? I don't even like. Never mind. I live in New Orleans. I know exactly how it happened.
Yep. The left was gleefully watching the same turn of events. Consider Godfrey Sperling's account of the Christian Science Monitor. President Ford believes that his present political posture at home resembles Richard M. Nixon's when the former president decided to improve relations with Peking and Moscow. It took a Republican president with strong support among the conservatives to seek detente with the communist world. One Ford friend says a liberal president might have stirred up a tremendous protest among the right-wingers. Mr. Nixon would do it. His supporters trusted him. Ford is seen as thinking he has this same opportunity to move to his own left on domestic matters without stirring up great public dissent. He is said to be convinced that the conservatives will go along with him even if they may not cheer his every move. Of the current Ford philosophy, one longtime Ford friend says the president has the conservatives rather nailed down. He knows they really don't have any other place to go. But his friend adds, the important thing to say about our new president is that he really wants to find solutions to human problems. If this means that he thinks he needs to liberal-oriented social legislation, he will move in that direction. Ford would very much like to be known as a president who is compassionate to all Americans. Thus, his friends say, no one should be surprised if the emerging Ford presidency is marked by a number of moves that are sufficiently liberal to evoke enthusiasm in moderate and liberal circles.
Still not completely clear to me what Gerald Ford did while he was president. We're reading a chapter about it, and I'm still not sure what he did while he was president.
Like what specific things he did?
Yeah. Like I'm listening to you rattle these. They're literally entering one of my ears and exiting the other.
Yeah. Well, this is all sort of like preface to the actual presidency.
I remember the Phyllis Schlafly stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. Ford.
Liberals just love to mortgage the future of our children, especially when it's done with OPM, other people's money. Are you down with OPP? Accordingly, in 2 years, Jerry Ford, to the delight of the left, ran up an increase in the national debt of $105 billion.
We did the math on this already, and it's like a week.
Yeah, it's like fucking nothing. Which was more than that of the combined administrations of the 24 years of Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson. None dare call this parsimony. Amazing.
What did we even spend all that money on in the 70s? Like, what the hell was it?
I don't know. Probably fucking polyester suits.
Yeah, the Astrodome. Like just like random ass like public works projects that have not aged well is what we spent all that money on.
As a leader of the free world, or just at home, the image of Jerry Ford was totally underwhelming. Indeed, he seemed overwhelmed even as he took over the job of president. The man seemingly in charge of the initial meeting with senior staff was, according to accounts of those there, Nixon's and then Ford's chief of staff, Alexander Haig, of the Council on Foreign Relations. Commented the former chief political correspondent of the New York Times, Haig was a commanding presence, making one concise recommendation after another, then ending with, "If you think it's best, Mr. President." Each time Ford would nod, "Yes, okay." The Ford team tried to shift control by asking Ford how he wanted to organize the White House. Well, the president said, "I like to start work at about 8 o'clock and do routine work at first. I like to start meeting people at about 10. I don't like long memos. I listen better than I read, really. I like to take a reading home, but not a great volume. I also like yes-no options. Lots of complications." Finally, the president stood up and said he had to leave. The new president sounded a bit shaky. Only 10 men knew. It would not take long for the country to catch on. In October of 1974 came the ignominious program to whip inflation now, when an almost laughable attempt by the President of the United States to tell Americans that the ills of the national economic slump could be cured by individual doses of bike riding, not using credit cards, wearing sweaters, and planting enough rutabagas or whatnot. Fucking rutabagas.
My God, that's so. I mean, it's so based in like this really weird way, and that you don't hear people say that any longer. That don't make you want to punch him in the face. But like if Gerald Ford said that to me, I'd be like, well, maybe I should consider rutabagas.
Maybe I should consider rutabagas. Rutabagas. It's funny because they are a root, and they're called a rutabaga, so it's kind of silly.
I don't even think I've ever seen one.
Most people don't eat rutabagas. Most people don't even eat turnips. Actually, most people only eat, like, if they eat a root vegetable, it's like an onion or garlic or maybe like a carrot, and it's only one kind of carrot. People eat a staggeringly limited diet. It's kind of terrifying, actually.
I like parsnips. I like sweet potatoes best. Or my
sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are the tits.
I'm looking at a rutabaga now, and I have, in fact, I use them.
Never eaten one.
I've almost certainly used them in place of turnips without knowing the difference.
Ah, okay. You can't use a parsnip in place of a carrot without knowing the difference because they have a woody center. So you'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with this weird ass white carrot?
Yeah, no, I love parsnips. I'm a fucking huge parsnip fan, actually.
They're a little sweet for me, actually. I mean, they have a different kind of sweetness than a carrot. I like a good, I mean, everyone loves a Cavendish or a Danvers, but there are lots of special cultivars for carrot that are really amazing. But anyway, I would love to do a gardening. I want to do a based gardening show. Anyone want to show where we talk about post-Landian solar fascism, and by that I mean gardening?
Yeah, you start getting flagged as teapot when you do this. Teapot. I get a lot of stuff like that because I actually have almost all of the topics you all like the discourse is talking about muted. The only thing that comes through on my timeline is lit posts, e-girls that I haven't gotten just totally sick of
blacklisted
yet.
By?
Well, that too. And no, they usually block me. I don't ever have to filter them out.
An accomplishment, yes.
I've been blocked by an e-girl who I'm maybe the only person she has blocked. But that was the big one. But yeah, no, I see gardening posts, alt lit posts, and like e-girl bullshit. Those are like the only 3 topics that I see. That's a great topic for a show, though. Alt lit plus gardening.
It's just like I don't even know what you'd call it. Yeah.
I was reading. I was like Bob Ross voice. I was reading Worst Boyfriend Ever's book about being the worst boyfriend ever.
It sounded like he was actually quite a bad boyfriend, and it got me thinking, what kind of boyfriend would I like to be if I could get a girl to talk to me?
If I could get a girl,
I think I wouldn't be the worst boyfriend ever, because I wouldn't cheat on her. That's selfish, and I'm not a selfish guy. I'm generous. I'd imagine that I would be a generous lover. Not that I've been a lover to anyone, but I am a lover to this here calendula, a lovely flower that will grow well alongside most of your vegetables and tends to be what you call a sacrificial crop because it attracts pests. And that's me. I just attract pests and get eaten all up. Get eaten all up before my flower can get picked by a lovely lady. Anyways, I'll see you next time.
I'm looking at a rutabaga and apple salad right now, and it's actually making me change my mind about the Midwest. It looks excellent.
It's probably great. Kohlrabi also is the best. Makes the best kind of slaw. FYI, kohlrabi is a cultivar of brassica, right? But it's all root. So you can just grate the whole thing. You can grate the whole thing, and it turns into these like nice, and it's a little peppery. So
nobody ever tells me about this shit.
Flavor, yeah, kohlrabi. Yeah, this is why you just have more food conversations with Mr. D. Anyway.
I go to the Midwest and people are boiling catfish in milk and then like seasoning it with like Old Bay, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all?
I don't know who the fuck you're hanging out with, but it ain't me. So, all right, let's see here. Rutabagas or whatnot. While sporting a win button in his lapel, Jerry Ford gave out with such homespun remedies as these from his mailbag. From Hillsboro, Oregon, the Stevens family writes that they are fixing up their bikes to save energy as they do family errands. Bob Cantrell, 14-year-old in Pasadena, California, gave up his stereo to save energy. $10 worth of seeds on a 25 by 30 foot plot will grow $290 worth of vegetables. There's still plenty of time to plant wind gardens. We waste food, gasoline, paper, electricity, natural resources. As a matter of fact, we waste almost everything. One friend told me we could probably just understand this, inflation, the contents of our trash cans. First words I can remember in my dad's house were very simple but very direct. Clean up your plate before you get up from the table. And that is still plenty good advice.
Greg, what? Who are you talking to?
Your like resistance to this is the same thing as someone saying you separate your plastics into 3 different types based on the recyclability, while 95 private jets fly to Jeff Bezos's
right. Yeah. And like, what year is this? This has got to. When was the first oil crisis? This has got to be during the first oil crisis.
So this was. I don't think this was the oil crisis yet.
But again,
that was Carter.
I always reiterate though that like, and I've actually been beating this horse a while. People like, they'll tend to look back at the hippies and that hard seller shit and be like, well, this is where America went wrong. But, it really wasn't. The 1970s, though, were very fucking bad. Like, economically, the 70s were very fucking bad.
Man, I just want a town car.
I think like the most famous bit of Gerald Ford's presidency was he gave a State of the Union address one time. He says, and there's a line in the State of the Union. It says, "The State of the Union is not good." And I think it's like the only like famous and pardoning Nixon are like the only famous Fordisms.
Right. There. I don't actually. So I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna stick my neck out here a little bit. I'm gonna say I actually think that this type of like homespun sort of shit is perfectly valid. Like, obviously, it's not going to. It's obviously not going to solve inflation, and it's not helpful to solve a lot of things. But in terms of behavioral standards, being like, make sure you take care of your trash, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's very reasonable because like the problem is that when a lot of the times like libtards are complaining about these things, it's like, oh, actually recycling is a fucking con, but they don't have anything to replace that with. So it's just nihilism because their entire belief structure was around like being a heckin' good person by doing things like recycling. Right. And so like it's actually fine to be socially responsible and like to save money by growing some food that you and your family consume or that you share with friends or whatever, because I don't know if you've ever planted a fucking cucumber, but that single cucumber plant produces more cucumbers than you ever fucking want in your life.
And there's a tendency also for like people to think like Americans in the 70s were like, well, they were growing more in their gardens and but that's not, it's kind of true, but it's not really. It is true if you go back to the generation before the Greatest Generation, that there was a lot more like home gardening, but
we were also like large stretches of the country were still agrarian.
Right. Yeah. But it's like really important to remember that this is like, so like what the New Deal, I mean, industrialized, people to a degree that they had never been before. So the Greatest Generation, so like that's Ford's generation, is the first one that really grows up in like where like supermarkets are the default mode of like food getting. You have to go a little bit further back to then in the South, of course, it's a little different. It persisted.
We are so unbelievably cucked by the idea of a supermarket having places around you to buy. You could have 100 places to buy food around you, but if one of them isn't a supermarket, you live in a food desert.
Right.
Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? So, yeah. Anyway, stereo abstinence is a way to stop inflation. I love the phrase stereo abstinence.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Abstaining from using a stereo.
Yeah.
Stereo abstinence is something you can only do if you're bisexual. Anyway, do they believe that the American people are really that stupid? Inflation is simply an increase in the supply of money and credit, which produces a corresponding price rise. It is that simple. All the rest of these homilies are merely dealing with the results of inflation, and the president's economists knew this, even if the president did not. If there was general malaise, it was not alleviated by any particular cooperation from the Congress. Of the first 122 congressional votes taken since assuming office, where there was a clear-cut White House position, Ford won but 58% of the time, even during this honeymoon. Even less than the 60% of victories Nixon managed on the 136 votes during his last 8 months in office, and much lower than the 80 to 90% scores early on registered by new presidents Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon. Virtually the first thing that President Ford did upon assuming office was to retain Henry Kissinger, whom the chief executive was to call one of the greatest secretaries of states in the history of the United States. That's true. That's true. Do you think that's false?
No, I'll go like
it's got to be true. Like you don't have, like, what do you mean by great, right? Like, do you mean
right?
Like important, consequential, like skillful? Like, what do you mean? But I think that under most definitions, like that aren't exclusively pursued policies that I personally approve of, he was probably the greatest Secretary of State, easily of the 20th century.
Yeah.
So let's see. Well, I mean, wait, when was the State Department formed? That's a good question.
No, it's an original one. Department of State is an original one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also the office did kind of expand.
I was going to say there were 10 employees in the before in the Grover Cleveland administration. There were 10 employees of the State Department, and by the Wood Wilson era, it had already become almost what it is today.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Well, then, yes. Goat. He's goated. Let's see. Yeah, Marco Rubio is never going to be as effective for us as Kissinger was for his folks.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Hard to believe that would be even sort of possible.
Should have been.
I like how Gary just calls him Jerry. You know, where we're
Jerry. Yeah. It's Larry calls him Jerry.
Yeah, Larry and Jerry. Yeah. Gary just calling him Jerry.
He called Nixon, didn't call him Dick or anything.
Yeah.
Virtually the first thing President Ford did upon assuming the office was to, eat your hearts out, Thomas Jefferson and John Quincy Adams. In fact, Kissinger was a detentist who was a disaster for the U.S. The word detente, which Kissinger claims as having coined, first appeared in an editorial of the French communist newspaper Le Monde, describing what it saw as the spirit of the new Soviet-American relations. Admiral Chester Ward, the former Judge Advocate General of the U.S. Navy and, like Kissinger, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, though the retired admiral was a rare dissenting and pro-American witness to this insider conspiratorial activity center, was blunt in his appraisal. Along with co-author Phyllis Schlafly in their definitive 846-page Kissinger on the Couch, the case is made conclusively. Exactly what Kissinger has done to the military power of the United States, both strategic and nuclear and conventional, has been established by conclusive evidence. He has never wavered from his consistent course of unilateral disarmament. It has been established that he made to the Soviets in the SALT I agreements concessions which may be fatal to our national survival, that the Soviets are exposing these concessions. It has also been proved that Kissinger has covered up for himself and for the Soviet exploitations. Well, I mean, I guess we know how that worked out.
Yeah. Okay. So here's an interesting bit. Okay, because he says the people that lived through the Depression did it. I'm assuming he's referring to like growing their own food.
He's talking about growing their own food.
Yeah. So this is not as true during the Depression outside of really like the Pacific Northwest and the Deep South, as you well, and then like they probably did it as much in Appalachia as they are today. But the Depression actually saw an incredible mobilization of like government to provide industrial food. So this is like where you get a lot of like recipes for things like creamed corn and like casseroles. Like the government was like writing these cookbooks.
There's this whole thing about I have one of the first cookbooks ever published, which is called a plain cookery book for the common man. And in it talks all about cooking things all in one pot and not transferring them between things, because then you get all of the nutrients.
Yeah.
Which is why like what you get these like wartime, every time like a government entity is putting out recipes and stuff, it's always like everything goes in and you cook it all together, because then you can get all of the calories that it contains.
Yeah, they're trying to calorie max.
You're not deglazing a pan. You're not making a sauce and then adding it in. You're like making soups, and you're making like layered baked things. Yeah, exactly.
But the tune did change when we entered World War II, and that was when the Victory Garden concept became a thing. And so it falls off a little bit during the Depression, and then comes back in the 40s is what happens. So there's the real granular look at it.
I honestly think that we couldn't do that today. I think
New Orleans does a pretty good job of it, actually. So I don't know how we would do if we had to replace we couldn't replace the supermarkets, but we have 7 farmers markets in New Orleans.
No, sure. But that's a different thing. A farmer's market is not so people are growing market gardens. So what you have is a small boutique farmer who is, growing unusual high demand and also high price cultivars of various things, to try to satisfy generally inherently upper class, or at least upper middle, or willing to spend luxuriously on food.
New Orleans has
all of them have, and I think you're going to say they have EBT.
Yes.
But all of them do now.
Do they really? So that's a thing.
Yeah, it's because EBT is a program that has very little variation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But farmers markets can accept EBT, and which is, great if you're, if you know someone who sells the EBT card, if you know someone who sells the EBT. You can save money at the farmer's market, because the value of what's on like
70 cents on the dollar or something.
You get like a 30% discount for giving them cash for their EBT. It's a crime, but
it's a crime, but you can do it.
Yeah. So, but the thing is that's fundamentally different than like people having some amount of self-reliance and like growing crops that they intend to consume. And in fact, people who are into growing their own food, that tends to be a signal of some kind of radicalism. And like it's not, there are people on the left and the right who do that, but it's definitely someone who's growing their own food is probably not like enthusiastically voting for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a lot of teapot adjacent people do that. It's like that's kind of in fucking hippies,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There are a lot of, I don't know. There are a lot of hippies who are more like, I don't know. Most hippies that I think of wooks, who are basically just like criminal homeless, but.
Yeah, that's another group of people that you like. Yeah, if like one of the best place to pick up a certain kind of woman is on like these like communal forced labor farms where you get paid in room and board, because these bitches like crash out on some shit and like fuck jack their lives totally. That's where it's where y'all were telling me to go recently.
Wait, where?
Like organic farms in the middle of the country that like they take in broken women pretty frequently.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That's right. And then you go like volunteer on an organic farm to learn regenerative agriculture.
Yeah,
and also you get impregnated as part of a harem.
Yeah,
that's right.
I need to get me one of those.
You need to get a organic farm that's secretly a harem.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I will never disrespect game. So. All right. Let's see here. Consider how Jerry Ford was set up for an involved negotiation session with the Soviet dictator Leonid Brezhnev at the tail end of the long Asian trip that ended at Vladivostok. This was Kissinger's doing. Even Time magazine recognized that Henry was seducing Gerald Ford to walk the same primrose path of symmetry that Nixon trod. This is the way of the New World Order. You get seduced to walk the primrose path. Would you? If that's on the organic harem farm, by the way. You have a literal
primrose path.
You have a literal primrose path. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, I need to get a primrose path too.
The primrose is a North American native plant, so you're in luck.
Yeah,
it's in line. It's in line with the ethos of the harem farm.
I love them.
It was,
however, the white tigers that I'm going to keep with me at all time are not. So.
They are certainly not. You have to have the harem because you need so much labor to handle these fucking tigers. Did you ever watch that show, by the way, Tiger King? Sandbatch? No? All right, I'm going to say no. It was after a 1,700-mile travelcade that the unelected president met the unelected general secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Then, as reported in ambush at Vladivostok, President Ford was confronted with a great surprise. Until the conference was actually underway, he had not the foggiest notion that he was to negotiate a strategic arms limitations pact. The conference continued under marathon pressure for more than 9 hours, ending after midnight. A scheduled dinner was canceled while the participants ate sandwiches and drank vodka. With his jet lag, his physical exhaustion, his mental fatigue, Brezhnev's bear hugging, the intensity of the negotiations, the complexity of the strategic nuclear weapons systems, and his own total inexperience in major negotiations, Gerald Ford did not catch on to what was happening. In fact, on December 2nd, 1974, at a press conference, Jerry Ford contended, "At Vladivostok, we put a firm ceiling on the strategic arms race, which had eluded us since the nuclear age began. I believe this is something for which future generations will thank us. If so, said William Hoare in his review of the summit, they may say it in Russian." This peace at any price philosophy would not be out of line with what Kissinger had long held as his belief, and which he revealed to Elmo Zumwalt, Chief Naval Operations and CFR member. It became an issue in the Republican race for president in 1976. In essence, recalled Zumwalt on Watch, Quadrangle, New York, 1976. Why? See, this is like one example where they're just putting in the citation in line. So annoying. This was what Henry had told him at the White House. The day of the United States is past, and today is... Oh, hold on. This is what Henry had told him in the White House. The day of the United States is past. Today is the day of the Soviet Union. My job as Secretary of State is to negotiate the most acceptable second best position available. The results at Vladivostok. Sandbatch, are you back yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, well, you didn't answer if you'd ever seen Tiger King.
Oh, I didn't hear. Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Of course, I've seen it. It's been a while, but I've seen it.
You know, there was the section. What I was going to bring up was that there's a section in that show, for people who haven't seen it, where they're like trying to get whatever they can to feed these tigers because it's so goddamn expensive. Yeah. And they're like literally dumpster diving at the supermarket.
I remember that. Yeah, like
getting
like shit. Yeah.
Yeah, feeding them like bologna, like actual bologna. I don't know. I just, it's going to be hard on the organic harem farm not to tip your hand to them that it's all like a con if you're not feeding the tigers like organic, wholesome meat. Like you have to, because these are all crunchy bitches, right?
It's like really difficult to imagine the tigers not showing real serious side effects of it rapidly. They're like
from feeding them nothing. It's all like, how bad do you think a tiger's headache is from eating all the nitrates in Oscar Mayer bologna?
Oh man,
you do not want a tiger with a headache.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. The result at Vladivostok with Ford connivance has been aptly described. Gerald Ford boxed himself in when, acting as president of the United States, he gave his personal assurance, his best judgment to the American people, that Brezhnev and his associates were men of peace who wanted to cap the arms race. After extolling the Vladivostok guideline as setting equal limits for each side on delivery systems, we are equal. On the MIRVing, we are equal. Ford again boxed himself in so that he could not admit to the nation that, under the agreement, the Soviets could soon attain decisive superiority over us. Ford was now so boxed in that he could never even say that the Soviets would attempt to achieve strategic supremacy over us, or would ever engage in nuclear blackmail against us. Whatever happened to the much heralded Helsinki Accords of 1975? You remember the human rights agreement that the Soviet Union signed. I guess they just eased on down the road to Afghanistan along with the Soviet tanks and troop carriers. Yes, let's criticize every invasion of Afghanistan. That will, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do you think the John Birch guys, the John Birch guys were probably in favor of the invasion of Afghanistan?
I don't even know how. There's only like 12 of them then.
Yeah, there couldn't have been that many left.
And then it did start to slowly sort of tick up shortly as a result of but yeah, I'll bet they were
I'll bet they were
as an official position.
A lot of people were in favor of the invasion of Afghanistan. I was a categorical isolationist at the time when I was 16, to be honest.
Yeah. God, I was too young. I barely remember it.
Yeah, I was actually very much a liberation. Yeah, like my political ideology was liberation theology when I was 16. So, yeah.
Huh.
So I was that kind of Catholic. Anyway, I had never read a single word of economics.
I had never read a single word of this shit, but that's what I was.
No. I read a lot of Gustavo Gutierrez, but I hadn't read any actual economics. So yeah. Anyway, the trapper who had done so much to accomplish this on behalf of the insiders was Mr. Kissinger, the man who had stayed when the president-to-be, Gerald Ford, had told him, "I need you." Kissinger seemed to come with the territory. Of course, he had been Nelson Rockefeller's outright foreign policy advisor until 1969. Gerald Ford surely knew the loci of power in the country. Indeed, asked at a press conference on November 14th, 1974, to list the achievements of the Ford presidency, he answered, "Number 1, nominating Nelson Rockefeller." Naturally, conservatives were outraged by this, especially those who remembered how disloyal Rockefeller had been to the Republican presidential nominee in 1964. As might be expected, Goldwater was not at all pleased when President Ford decided to name Nelson Rockefeller. Barry Goldwater remarked, "The former governor was acceptable to the Eastern establishment and to the liberals of both parties. The Nixon haters were appeased because Rockefeller had opposed Nixon. He was automatically acceptable to the powerful internationalists who controlled American foreign policy most of this century. I didn't mount a campaign of opposition to Rockefeller's confirmation. I did make it clear to my friends in the White House and in the party I would do everything in my power to block his nomination to the Republican Party ticket in 1976. Indeed, when it came closer to the 1976 elections, President Ford's campaign manager, Howard Bo Calloway, called Nelson Rockefeller the number one problem in securing the nomination for Mr. Ford, and further cited the vice president's age, then 67, as a deterrent to Rocky's own nomination.
Wow.
Wow. in 1976, 67 years was comically old for a politician.
Right.
Mr. Rockefeller's unsuccessful attempts to attain the presidency hopefully prove that money can't buy everything, but it certainly made things easier. Indeed, when he stepped down as governor of New York to take over his highfalutin commission on critical choices for America, it was widely seen as yet another move towards the White House. Nicholas von Hoffman, the acerbic columnist with a streak of libertarianism, commented that at the time that the operation smells like a trick to get around the election laws. As a nonpartisan, non-denominational, non-everything organization of high and empty purpose, it provides him with a platform to stay in the news and run for office using money from the government, foundations, and his own fortune that he couldn't legally touch if he were an honest, confessed candidate. It's morally grungy, but high-class Rockefeller grungy. That's Rockefeller grungy is another good phrase. Man. I missed this one. Build back Bactria. Yes.
Excellent
one.
Chat's informed tonight.
What?
Chat is
in powerful form tonight. It is unbelievably strong. That's because they've been saving up their takes in our absence. That's what's going on. Let's see here. What kind of president would he make? One that would put the U.S. into bankruptcy, but with majestic swipes? This was the conclusion of von Hoffman, who also noted, in his 17 years in office, he raised taxes 8 times, while quadrupling state expenditures and debt. Some of the money, such as that which went for higher education, may have been well spent, but much of it, like I don't know about that, but like the $1 billion that went for his new state capitol complex called the Albany Mall, might cause some people to think we're getting off cheap with San Clemente. Fortune magazine discovered that usable office space in Rocky's Mall costs up to $230 per square foot. That is an unbelievable price for that time period. At the same time, private developers were putting an office building adjacent to it for $40 a usable square foot. The magazine also figured out that the mall's 920-seat theater was coming in at $263 per square foot, or nearly $50 million. Some of this profligacy is probably due to Rocky's overrated reputation as a good administrator, but part of it is policy. It was Rocky who taught Nixon to buy labor votes, which the governor did by this kind of unrestrained spending. This same labor policy encouraged New York's government employees' unions to try to get away with a series of illegal but profitable strikes. That's just good old-fashioned graft. Good honest graft, as Plunkett as George Washington Plunkett liked to say, good honest graft.
Graft as opposed to grift.
Yep. Yeah, graft is when you are using public funds, right? To do a public works project, but you're doing it for your own personal gain, right? That's graft. Grifting is when you're running an explicit con. Graft is bad motives, right? It's sort of like Columbus Day, right? So Columbus Day is graft from end to end. Because the day Columbus Day became a thing in order to basically buy votes from Italian Americans. And it stopped being a thing to buy votes from Browns. So tragically, but yeah, anyhow, yet when he came to advising President Ford, there were some curious anomalies. For example, he played a major role in the decision to reject a request by Fun City officials in May of 1975 that New York be granted $1.5 billion in emergency funds. a move used against Ford in the 1976 election by Jimmy Carter, who brandished the misleading "drop dead" headline attributed to Ford's attitude. Nelson, of course, always had his eyes on the big picture. On July 26, 1968, for instance, the Associated Press offered this morsel. New York Governor Nelson A. Rockefeller says, as president, he would work toward international creation of a new world order based on East-West cooperation instead of conflict. The Republican presidential contender said he would begin a dialogue with Red China, if elected, to improve the possibilities of accommodations with that country as well as the Soviet Union. With Kissinger as a cat's paw, this happened anyway under Nixon and Ford. Domestically, it was the rule and not the exception that Rockefeller still thought the bigger government, the better, at least for the power brokers. Former Treasury Secretary William Simon, a Ford cabinet member, has characterized a Me Too Republican free enterprise principle this way. If liberals can use state coercion and public taxes to push through their goals, why can't we? Yes. Let's use their bag of statist tricks to build up our productive system before those fools destroy it altogether. Yes. Do those things. That's right. That's completely correct. This kind of thinking, Simon said later, through his ghost, Edith Efron, led to the typical result. President Ford's espousal of Nelson Rockefeller's grandiose plan for $100 billion energy corporation to lend funds to private industry to develop new fuel technologies. The president, whose attitudes were fiscally conservative, but whose sometimes deviated, justified the scheme in a public statement as a catalyst and stimulant to inspire energy independence. But it was, in fact, an economic outrage, a gargantuan welfare boondoggle for the energy industries, lifted right out of the taxpayer's wallet, an inflationary scheme that would additionally put serious strains on the capital markets. Incredibly, the president endorsed Rockefeller's proposed raid on the Treasury. Fortunately, Congress never acted on it. Earlier, we pointed out how the Rockefeller family had conspired with communists and non-communists alike. In American Opinion magazine, Gary Allen quoted
in his own book, of course. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Gary was dead when this one was done.
Right.
It was Larry Abraham.
We're just doing a throwback.
That's right. To Rockefeller CFR elite, it makes no difference which party is in power. Nelson was himself part of the Roosevelt and Truman administration. In the Eisenhower administration, he helped to create the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, which now takes an even larger portion of the federal budget than does defense. Eisenhower's first Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, was a Rockefeller cousin. Dulles' successor, Christian Herter, had displayed the good sense to marry into the Standard Oil fortune. Smart. On the recommendation of Nelson Rockefeller, John Kennedy named Dean Rusk of the CFR to be his Secretary of State. Rusk took leave of that. Is this a quote? So this is Gary Allen being quoted. I think this is a quote from an earlier section of this book.
Yeah.
On the recommendation of Nelson Rockefeller, John Kennedy named Dean Rusk of the CFR to be his Secretary of State. Rusk took a leave of absence as head of the Rockefeller Foundation to accept the post. Kennedy appointed Chester Bowles as Undersecretary of State. Bowles, also of the CFR, has been a trustee of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund and a director of the Rockefeller Foundation. Democrat Kennedy then named Standard Oil executive Alexander Trowbridge as Assistant Secretary of Commerce, and President Johnson later promoted him to Secretary of Commerce. President Kennedy also named Roswell Gilpatrick, a trustee of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, as Deputy Secretary of Defense. It's all Rockefellers all the way down.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot. Bringing it up to the GOP administrations that then came into office, Allen concludes, Richard Nixon appointed Nelson Rockefeller's attorney, John Mitchell, as Attorney General, obviously one of the disposable kind. And Mitchell ran the president's campaign for re-election and became his chief advisor on domestic policy. The president's chief advisor on foreign policy is now Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, who came to the Nixon administration from a staff position at the CFR. and had for 10 years been on Nelson Rockefeller's payroll as personal foreign policy advisor. It was Rockefeller who arranged for him to be appointed a virtual assistant president for foreign affairs. Even Spiro Agnew had, in early 1968, been national chairman of the Rockefeller for President Committee. Years ago, Nelson Rockefeller demanded and received the privilege of naming his own men to top administrative posts on all important Republican committees, including the vital national, senatorial, congressional, and policy committees. His demand for top patronage was reluctantly agreed to after he threatened to cut off all Rockefeller and Rockefeller-controlled financial contributions. The effect on the Republican Party has been all too clear. As Mr. Allen commented, it now seemed time for the coup de grace in preparation for the world government, as the days for lieutenants and allies and agents could be superseded by Brother Nelson himself. Though resistance wasn't enough to stop Rockefeller from being confirmed as vice president, testimony at the time brought out to the public much more clearly the power of the insiders and their vulnerability to exposure in matters of world order, lessening of national sovereignty, relations with communists, and other vital matters. For instance, conservative Senator Jesse Helms, Republican of North Carolina. Man, how long was Jesse Helms in office?
Long ass time.
He had to be in office. He had to be in office for 30 years.
I think he left in 97.
You think really that early?
I think that was
25 years, something like that.
I mean, he'd been there for a while by then.
Already. Yeah. The Rockefeller name has been closely associated with the promotion of these attitudes in such groups as the Population Council, the Council on Foreign Relations, the so-called Bilderberger meetings, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. All of these groups operate largely outside of our political system, with its concept of checks and balances. Now, again, this is another thing that kind of frustrates me about this book in general, is that, like, the central conceit here is that it's scandalous that these groups exist because they aren't part of the formal political system.
Yeah, they're way more vestigially New Dealers than they want to let on.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't know. Nowadays, that seems basically to be a almost comically naive sort of attitude, doesn't it? Like, it's like, oh, it's not part of the government. It's not part of a political party. Therefore, it's not going to. Therefore, it's bad that it exerts political influence.
Right.
I think I think people like just need to get the fuck over that entire thing. Like, what else? What else are you going to do? Like, all things exert influence on politics. If you look, I mean, the left knows well enough that fucking comic books and cape shit movies exert influence on politics, right? So
there's all this mask off shit that's happened in our lifetimes, though. But yeah, I mean, it's like it's jokey.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's mask off shit? Do you think that they like just gave up the game? They just got sick of pretending.
Right. Yeah. By 2016, they were just like, it's like, Hollywood like mobilizes against Trump. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like the villain and everything was a fucking Nazi tier dude. It was so bad. You can't ever walk that back. You can't ever walk back that everyone was yeah, I guess so. Wearing pink pussy hats, screaming in the street.
That one was so weird.
Nobody ever talks about that. Dude.
No one ever talks about the Women's March. Yeah, I wonder who designed the pink pussy hat.
Yeah, I was really happy to see Stephen Colbert eat shit too. He was, he's from Charleston, South Carolina, and he's like, I can't stand anything about it.
I actually thought he was pretty funny during the Bush years, but
he was funny. Yeah. He had a couple of years where he was funny, but like really by the time I was in college, he wasn't all that great anymore.
Fair enough. Yeah. Let's see here.
Ride the Tiger's baloney blood shark. That's a good one. Damn.
I missed that one.
Yeah, it's pretty far back.
Oh, there we go. Vulpes Persona. Thank you. Baloney blood shark. Oh God. Terrifying. All of the tigers get irritable bowel syndrome because you're feeding them too many nitrates. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Order. I'm sorry, I lost my place. Okay. Syndicated columnist Paul Scott added to the exposure of the game plan emanating from inside on Rockefeller's strategy and timetable. Based on information gathered from intelligence officials with high-level connections in high banking circles, these reports, as recorded here, were that the Watergate scandal was being used as a cover for the forced transfer of power from Nixon to Rockefeller via the 25th Amendment to the Constitution. The transfer of power is to be completed by 1976. If confirmed by the Senate and the House, Rockefeller will be within a heartbeat of the presidency. And this is only 1974. With Kissinger making and controlling U.S. foreign policy, the role given Rockefeller by Ford in the domestic policy field could in reality make that transfer of power complete within the next year. But conservatives can make the difference. Jimmy Carter was, of course, no conservative, but he had to try to win over the moderate to right voters in his campaign against Ford. Meanwhile, Jerry Ford alienated the right by such stupidities as refusing to meet the great Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and even referring to the exiled anti-Soviet writer as a goddamn horse's ass.
Yeah,
Such a
great.
Such a lickspittle attitude to appease the Kremlin did not appease American voters. Solzhenitsyn. Solzhenitsyn remains based. How many years together? Never mind. Rockefeller was dropped from the 1976 ticket. No mean feat considering how close the insiders had come, using one of their more powerful leaders. As Kevin Phillips looked back, both Goldwaterite and New Right conservatives balked at Ford and Rockefeller. Former California Governor Ronald Reagan raised the Sun Belt standard in a bid to deny Ford the 1976 nomination, and almost succeeded. Even before Reagan's move, conservative pressure created a climate which Ford had to announce that Vice President Nelson Rockefeller would step down and not seek election in 1976. Despite this, a large number of insurgent conservatives sat on their hands, preferring to see Ford replaced by a Democrat as they looked towards 1980. Coupled with assassination attempts, photographers recording every bump in the presidential head, bumps on other people's heads from his golf balls, and gaffes in the debates with Jimmy Carter when Ford unilaterally liberated Poland from the yoke of Soviet domination, all of these seemed to work against the re-election of the unelected president. Jimmy Carter even took up the cudgels, saying, as far as people's lives were concerned, Ford is even worse than Richard Nixon. Perhaps, but that was before the voters handed the ball of wax to the supposed outsider from Georgia, an outsider beloved by insiders.
Now, they hate, this is probably about to get almost pornographic. Like they may incite violence here.
Against Jimmy Carter?
Yeah. Which is like an interesting. I am a Jimmy Carter stan. I like Jimmy Carter.
You like Jimmy Carter as a person or as a president?
Different. I'm not willing to make that distinction. So
you're not willing to make that distinction.
Yeah.
I think that as a person, he's probably like among presidents, the best person to like have living in your neighborhood. Like he's probably a very good neighbor.
Yeah.
By the way, that reference from earlier was Congressman John Rarick, Democrat of Louisiana.
I wonder where he was from. I wonder where. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, 1973. Democrat in 1973, by the way.
Yeah, we got a lot of
Got a lot of photos here. President Carter, the meeting of members, their daughters and sons.
He was from Waterford, Indiana. So he's the God, what district is that? Because we've been gerrymandered so many times. Where the fuck? Where was the 6th Congress? So it's going to be the 1972 Congress. 1972 Congress. This is a side quest. I think it's the 90th Congress. 90th Congress. Okay, Louisiana 6th Congressional District there. Damn, that is one of the most gerrymandered districts I have ever fucking. Oh no, that's what it looks like now.
Looks like a river.
Yeah, it's literally just blacks. It's like all the blacks have been gerrymandered into one district.
Brilliant.
Yes.
In the lower left-hand quadrant here, you can see the thesis of the next chapter, which is, while claiming to be an outsider, Jimmy Carter was the creation of David Rockefeller, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Trilateral Commission. Over the past 20 years, Walter Cronkite probably did more to shape the opinions of the American people than any other insider. I mean, def true. Yeah, let's see. George McGovern, John B. Anderson. Let's see. Gary Hart. Man, this picture of Gary Hart here looks an awful lot like a certain Mr. Carlson, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Right here in profile, you can see it. Let's see.
Yeah, it's definitely there. Yeah. Gary Hart.
I'm not going to read all of these, but these are just, oh, look, Robert Mugabe, terrorist, communist, and now one-man ruler of Zimbabwe, being entertained at CFR. Yeah. Mugabe. He's still isn't he still in power?
No, he died recently, I think.
Did he? Oh, he died in 2019. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
FBI informant
in office until 2019. Incredible.
FBI informant says, has anyone seen this insane Hunter Biden interview? We already covered that.
Yeah, we already talked about it. Let's see. All right. George Shultz, insider's member, born into the Rockefeller family oil interest, Secretary of State Shultz leads the Reagan administration towards a new world order. Vice President George H. It says H. Bush, but I'm gonna fill in the W. And former Vice President Walter Mondale. 2 meetings for the CFR members and their spouses, held in the auditorium of the Rockefeller University. Insiders knew they had their bases covered in the '84 election. Let's see. Winston Lord, CFR, President welcomes Red Chinese leader Wu Jianji to Pratt House, a prelude to Lord's being appointed Reagan's ambassador to Red China. I mean, is that incriminating? Like, would that be like, does that seem incriminating? The only thing incriminating that I see about that is like the Council on Foreign Relations things, right? Like, you would think that a person who was going to be the ambassador should have the job of greeting the leader of the country if you're hosting them, right? Like, doesn't that all make sense?
You would think so, but they're using incriminating in a very loose way.
Yeah.
Conspiratorial way, even. Martin
S. Feldstein and Alan Greenspan, I wonder what they have in common. Oh, they're 2 key Reagan economic advisors. I bet they don't have anything else in common. Oh, they're both longtime CFR members. Well, clearly 2 is too many things in common. There couldn't possibly be a third. Let's see. All right. Please don't have another page of images. Thank God. All right. Jimmy Carter, the insider's outside man. So, are you ready to choose violence, Sandbatch?
Yeah, let's do it.
You're so ready. Man, I wonder how much more of this book there is.
As a rule, I quit smoking again, and so I'm now on Zens, which are, and they're only staving off one of the things that makes you go crazy,
which is
the nicotine addiction itself. But you get addicted to all these other like sort of strange chemicals that it like I still feel like my skin's on fire.
Man, that's why I couldn't try or like couldn't do Zins.
Yeah.
Like it just made me feel like hell. Like I just couldn't do it. It made me feel like my skin was crawling. It was distinctly unpleasant. I don't know. Maybe I'm the pussy here, but like I don't know. I just don't like nicotine that way. I'm much more of a like a pipe and cigar kind of fella.
I'm really hoping to get down to like almost no nicotine here. It's like that time in my life when I need to get rid of it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm publishing books and I'm shedding the Sandbatch persona is what I'm doing in a very oblique way. Oh, sad to see it go.
So, are you actually going to change your online handles?
No, there's like that's what people know me as now.
So are you actually shedding the Sandbatch persona, or are you just sort of blending it with your actual personality and name? Because you're not dropping the name, you're sublimating the
sublimating is a better way to put it, I think.
Oh man. All right. It was absolutely fascinating and most amusing to watch the news media promote Jimmy Carter as a 1970s version of Abe Lincoln. They tried and succeeded in convincing enough Americans that the Plains, Georgia barefoot boy with cheek was the reincarnation of the American dream, a dream that was to become a nightmare. Mr. Carter was the first creation by the insiders and the national news media. Granted, the press pundits have had their favorites in the past and promoted them successfully. This time they didn't have to choose from among the ranks of warmed over hand-me-downs. This time they could dream the impossible dream. Was that a Bette Midler reference?
Yeah, it was.
With their very own bionic politician. What a challenge. Just think, selling the American... Man, you just couldn't... Larry Abraham just couldn't, like, take the Jew out of the book, could he? He had to put in a Bette Midler reference. Just think, selling the American people a no-name former Southern governor who professed to be a born-again Christian and talked out of both sides of his mouth, with his greatest asset being a Cheshire cat's envy. The legendary Carter grin was halfway between Mary Tyler Moore and a piano.
I love everything about him.
That's pretty funny.
Everything about Jimmy Carter. Like he's got this really sort of like innocent veneer, but like he's a fucking Southern Democrat. Like he can do some horse trading. You don't get to be governor of Georgia by being a stooge, by being like a little like there's a lot more Pop Carter in him than people were willing to like remember.
There's not a lot of actually kind of most presidents don't show their teeth when they smile.
It's true. Most of them had bad teeth,
Well, I mean, we're talking about the 20th century and later.
I mean, they still had bad teeth. Like they were like, they're usually getting to be pretty
old guys. Yeah. You know who's got pearly whites?
I bet Donald Trump has like I bet he has no real teeth left, but
they're all pristine. Yeah, that's right. Actually, he shows his teeth when he smiles. He too, just like Carter. Maybe that's the like outsider signal. You show your teeth when you smile. Let's see here. Add to that such down-home extras as Miss Lillian, Brother Billy, Blue Jeans, Good Old Boys, Peanuts, a hand-carried suit bag, and you had the ingredients for the biggest Madison Avenue hustle since the Edsel.
Yeah.
He was created by the media. And like that, people said that the Edsel failed because it had a vaginal front grill, and it just fucking doesn't. Like, I don't know why the Edsel failed. I don't know that much about cars, but it doesn't look vaginal at all. The Edsel looked pretty cool. He was created by the media, and like the proverbial horse designed by a committee, he wound up resembling a camel. Imagine, if you will, the following scene. Let me paint you a picture, like the picture painters might. David Rockefeller is announcing to his CFR buddies from the news media, Jimmy Carter is our man. Jimmy who? Come on now, gentlemen. You remember Jimmy Carter. He's the little fellow who was governor of Georgia right after Maddox. What's Georgia? Now, let's not betray any Northeast provincialism. Even Georgia gets to be part of the one world state. All right, former governor of Georgia. But how do we sell him when we've never even heard of him? That, my friends, is his biggest asset. We can make him all things to all people. He'll be our very own production. He's perfect for the job. No voting record, no books or articles coming back to haunt him. And most importantly, no principles to live up to. This, gentlemen, shall be our finest hour.
Let me get out ahead of you here, because I know what you're gonna do. When you do Jimmy Carter, imagine that have taken some sort of drug that numbs the center of your tongue and relax your jaw muscles entirely.
He has a slightly high voice, doesn't he?
Talk real slow like this. You have to adjust the cadence, but it's like all about slackness in the jaw is where
I really don't know.
The Southern dialect is.
I should actually listen to what Jimmy Carter sounds like.
Jimmy Carter, he sounded like this. He sounded a lot like this.
So he just has the genteel Georgian accent. Okay.
Yeah. It's not twangy, it's the drawl.
Yeah.
I'm only saying this because I am the only person.
The planter's accent.
Yeah, I'm the only person alive who definitely will have to listen to it, and I'm also one of the most sensitive to it. So yeah.
So as it was with Sarutan and Preparation H, Madison Avenue, compliments of the CFR and David Rockefeller, served us up a concoction that would clean us out and ease the pain all at the same time. That is amazing. That is an amazing sentence. It will be no. Oh, let's see. I will be no better. Fuck. Hold on. Let me try this. Let's see. Lincoln's Wall.
Lincoln's Wall of null and aggression. Yeah, but a little even.
I'll be no better president than the type of campaign I conduct. Jimmy Carter vowed repeatedly throughout 1976. Over and over, with practiced sincerity, the former governor of Georgia assured Americans, if I ever lie to you or if I ever mislead you, please don't vote for me. Trust me,
good. Yeah,
said the little-known candidate for the Democratic nomination, I won't let you down. Wanting to believe the man, enough of the electorate gave the politician its support. Had he not said what they so wanted to hear? Carter even called the insiders, and pledged the blame and pegged the blame correctly at the doorstep of the establishment conspirators who, as we have seen, had betrayed American interests for years in both major political parties. Even liberals could see the truth in the candidates' charges. The left-wing Boston Globe, for example, carried its headline on February 18th, 1976. Carter says U.S. needs outsider like himself. In his speech made February 17th, Jimmy Carter seemed so straightforward. I can tell you that there is a major fundamental issue taking shape in this election year. That issue is the division between the insiders and the outsiders. People of this country know from bitter experience that we are going to get these changes merely by shifting around the same group of insiders. The insiders have had their chance. They have not delivered. Their time has run out. The time has come for the great majority of Americans, those who have for too long been on the outside looking in, to have a president who will turn the government of this country inside out. He
now,
was.
With respect to what Gary and Larry are doing here, or this is the Southern strategy being done right here. So if you're familiar with the Southern strategy, this is it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great, like, if you wanted to encapsulate something, like that paragraph is the perfect one to pull, right?
Right. Yeah. You notice, like, Nixon, like Carter is doing things like he almost says the great silent majority of Americans to stand up and be counted. He's like, actually, he's valencing Nixon on purpose a little bit, because he is also losing his constituency in the South, and they voted for Nixon in droves. So, like, there's an element of the 1977 election where, like, you know, everybody hates Nixon now, and these guys certainly hate Nixon, the guys that write this book. But a lot of the country still kind of like Nixon's policies, and they liked Nixon himself. They liked Nixon as a politician. They didn't like him as a person anymore. So what's actually happening here is, again, you know, remember we talked about Rears a minute ago?
Yeah.
Mark Rears, Rears was the last. So he's like John Rarick. Okay, so yeah, elected 1967, kicked out 1975, and he loses his renomination. He is replaced by Henson Moore, a Republican. Okay, and if I go all over the South, this is the 4-year period where we're going to start to see the solid South crack up. Okay, and Jimmy Carter is nominated in part as an attempt to stabilize that cracking up of it. Was we need to give these. We're losing this. We're losing the Democratic solid South. We need a Southerner for this. And then Jimmy Carter is a real interesting sort of test tube baby, because he is he is the thing that he presents himself as, but there had to be some synthetic shit done as well. Like, they got Bob Dylan to go out there and do shit with him. Hunter S. Thompson worked overtime. Like, Hunter S. Thompson sobered up to be, and his correspondence from this era, he plays up his own Louisville background quite a bit more than he ever has, quite a bit more than you ever really catch from him in any other moment in his career. And this is happening because the Southern strategy, the tough on crime, tough on spending, Southern narrative that won the Republican Party for the South, is starting to take seats away from the Democrats. And they're at least in part running Jimmy Carter as a way to try and salvage some of that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you know, the Southern strategy continued to fucking work, right? Like, you know, you had the Reaganite grand bargain, but then like the Southern strategy crushed it for Clinton, right?
Yeah.
H.W. Bush was not believable.
This is the lesson. Again, those guys that I work for, this was their great coup. It's not this election, but it's the next election, the one that Reagan comes to power on. This is whenever they make the grant. They come up with this idea that we're going to put the South Carolina primary first and go all in on South Carolina, and then they use South Carolina's cultural capital with the rest of the South to sort of start rolling a rock downhill. And then they have what's called Super Tuesday, and the whole South votes on Super Tuesday. So you get South Carolina is your indicator. And which way it goes is going to have a massive downstream effect on where the rest of the South goes, and then you have them all voting one day before they have a chance to think about it. And that's exactly how it worked.
Yep. He said, just the man for the job. Though even his mother seemed obligated to tell the folks that wee Jimmy wasn't beyond stretching the truth when it came to tales. Of his supposedly impoverished beginnings, Miss Lillian said, I know Jimmy writes about how poor we were, but really we were never poor. We were just like all country folk. We didn't feel poor. We always had a car. We always had the first radio and planes. We had the first TV set. It was a minor fib, but a rags to fame story has appealed even if only Carter Cornpone. The other story that Jimmy had trained in nuclear physics, he called it nuclear, at Annapolis. Try to verify that in his transcripts. So Jimmy's popularity grew, or was inflated, quickly. And inflation was, as it turned out, one of his specialties. A mere 1% of the Democratic voters polled by George Gallup 10 months before the convention in October 1975 were for Carter. 5 months later, Carter was in second place, barely trailing Hubert Humphrey. By the middle of May, and you killed Jesus.
I forgot Hubert Humphrey makes one more appearance. Yeah.
By the middle of May of 1976, he was top dog in the polls among the potential candidates for president. Little did the people know how callously they were being manipulated. As the astute Jeffrey St. John pointed out, Jimmy Carter's secret for political success from the time he first ran for public office had been due less to his own strengths than to the weaknesses of his opponents. His formula is simply to attack the establishment and the political bosses and insiders and as a powerless outsider, in order to become a powerful insider himself. Clues to the depth or lack thereof of the Carter commitment came from the inside the Carter camp itself, for those willing to look beneath the peanut shell. New York Carter backer Midge Costanza opined.
What a name.
He's a conservative to conservatives, a moderate to moderates, a liberal to liberals. Jimmy Carter has believability. Yet when the media advisor, Jerry Rafshoon, was asked what he thought might be Carter's failings as a president, he answered, the failings might be that a lot of people who voted for him for their own reasons will be disappointed that he wasn't what they thought. On the other hand, some had seen through the Carter camouflage. Reg Murphy, former editor of the Atlanta Constitution, called the one-time Peach State governor one of the 4 phoniest men I've ever met, and predicted his presidential victory because of his ruthlessness. Carter will, he said, change what views it takes for him to win. Just can't imagine anyone being led by him. I imagine sounded good to people for a day or two. Can't imagine him sounding very good to them for 4 years. Of his phony charge, Murphy recalled in 1978 that 2 years later, I see no reason to change my mind. Consider the former Georgia governor Lester Maddox, who served as lieutenant governor on the ticket with Carter, unable to succeed himself legally. The number 2 Maddox got more than 73% of the vote in 1970, compared to Governor-elect Carter's less than 60%. In 1976, Maddox went to New Hampshire for the early primary to expose his one-time running mate as a concealed radical liberal, commenting, he's two-faced, he's the biggest phony I ever known, and I hope to God the American people find out before it's too late. They had belatedly learned in Georgia that the populist redneck they had elected was quick to throw out or ignore campaign promises, especially to curry favor from the national liberal establishment. By doing so, Time magazine placed Governor Carter on its May 31, 1971 cover in a story called The New Day. A new A coming in the South.
Interesting. Did you just naturally switch over into the other accent? Like, because because Lester Maddox did have the twang. So you did the proper accent change. It was purely
name physiognomy.
It worked. Yeah, you were right.
I don't know anything about Lester Maddox, so
he was the last openly segregationist governor in the country.
What a hero!
Yeah.
Well, the last for now.
Yeah.
Oh man. Let's see. With his seemingly favorite color being plaid and his mascot a chameleon, Jimmy Carter often played both sides of his political street. Another former Georgia governor, Carl Sanders, who tasted the fruits of Carter's dirty tricks run from his stink tank, later wrote of the plainsman's hypocrisy in the left-wing New Republic, calling Carter an ultra-liberal who had once worked to delete the word God from the Georgia Constitution. Nevertheless, according to a New York Times CBS poll in the summer of 1976, 52% of Jimmy Carter supporters considered themselves conservatives. Even a cynic like Richard Reeves noted in the Slick New York magazine that the barefoot boy with cheek is mixing politics and religion, and he may be capable of doing it with devastating effect. Apparently, it touched Mr. Reeves in 1976. Without embarrassment to himself or his audience, Carter is able to softly preach love, invoke the name of the Lord, say that he has found Jesus, and that he is washed in the blood of the Lamb, and I am twice born. Also, the yearning crowd seemed to go away believing, including a surprisingly high proportion of the working press, we want to believe too. Was this all heartfelt or simply a sham? It certainly fit into plans made years before. Good press doesn't appear by chance in time to sell a candidate. Carter's campaign director in 1976 was Hamilton Jordan, who helped map out a strategy for this man, including the comments, "Stories in the New York Times and Washington Post don't just happen, but have to be carefully planned and planted." He might have added Time, Newsweek, and other liberal image makers. You had to know Jimmy was on a roll when he made the cover of Time. As Malcolm Muggeridge once remarked, the cover of Time magazine is post-Christendom's most notable stained glass window.
That's a pretty good one.
That's a pretty fucking good one. It really, like, even to the modern day, in the weakness of the legacy media, stuff on the cover of Time magazine still goes viral.
Yeah, it'll get you there because it's just a picture. It doesn't require any reading.
Yeah, exactly. Whoa, there are articles in Time magazine? I just read it for the cover. The primaries were the place for the nomination would be won, especially now that the proportionate shares of delegates were picked off in most states. It was no longer a winner-take-all system. And never mind how the media reported the top man as the victor. Still, Carter won 17 out of 31 primaries. The early ones were most important in establishing his persona. As Ham Jordan said, personal qualities such as trust and integrity had to be emphasized over hard points of ideology. Pollster Patrick Cadell has to say the trust thing won the nomination for his candidate Carter. New Hampshire, that little populated state with the first primary, built on the momentum started by the minuscule Iowa caucuses, where but 47 delegates were to be selected out of 3,008 of Iowa votes, 37%. But Carter's 26% was enough for Roger Mudd of the CBS Evening News to call him a clear winner, a real boost to the man with but 5% national standing in the Gallup poll at the time. Then came the Granite State primary as described by Victor Lasky. Carter had won a plurality of the vote, almost 30%, with 24% going to Udall, 16% to Bay, 11% to Harris, and 9% to Shriver. By splitting the liberal vote four ways, Carter's foes gave him what appeared to be a clear-cut victory. The fact that 60% of the state's voters voted for the four most liberal candidates was ignored by the media. Instead, Walter Cronkite proclaimed the results, giving Carter a commanding head start in the race. And Roger Mudd declared Carter's victory substantial. The following week, Newsweek declared him the unqualified winner. This picture appeared in the cover of both Time and Newsweek. On the inside pages, he received 2,630 lines of coverage, and while Udall, who came in second, wound up with 96 lines. During the week following New Hampshire, Carter received 3 times the television news coverage of his major rivals and 4 times as much front-page newspaper coverage. Yeah. Let's see. Jimmy the Giant Killer became the media focus, according to political science professor James W. Davis, Dean of Western State College's College of Arts and Sciences. Night after night, the 3 national television networks carried frontline stories of the political newcomer. Within a period of 8 weeks, Jimmy Who appeared twice on the cover of both Time and Newsweek. Syndicated cartoonists had a field day with Carter's broad smile and overstocked supply of teeth and his peanut farmer background. So preoccupied were the networks that the press with this new Southern frontrunner who talked about trust and love of fellow Americans, they frequently ignored or overlooked his ambiguous positions on the issues. Yeah.
Ford didn't really have, this was a kind of a notably ugly campaign. I mean, it was at the time. If you go look at the videos of it now, it seems cute. But Ford also didn't really have a lot of substantive policy issues. He's just kind of This is interesting
I mean,
commentary. I've never actually heard this story before this way.
Ford was kind of a cipher.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the idea that Carter was also was similarly constructed. Actually, when you think about it, you know, just taking this at face value, let's just say this is right, okay? Carter and Obama would be the most similar in terms of the campaign.
Yeah.
Right, because Obama wasn't winning right out of the gate either, was he? I don't think he was.
No.
Like the heir apparent was obviously Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And Obama kind of like was a, you know, no pun intended, a dark horse, but gained a shitload of momentum, and partially because, you know, even to the present day, we really don't know a shitload about him, right? He could just be as blank as possible and you know, pose for people to just project onto him what they wanted, right? Like that's why you had just that obviously superb and consequential piece of Shepard Fairey propaganda that was like the apotheosis of Obama. Like if it wasn't for the Shepard Fairey image, I don't think it would have. I'm not certain he would have won because it was so like it was such a powerful piece of like visual. I mean, a visual cipher.
Yeah, I mean, again, I tell you, I'm nebulously pro Jimmy. I'm like absurdly pro Jimmy Carter. I can't really tell you a whole lot about Jimmy Carter. Just literally, they got me vibes, and he's a Southerner. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's the guy. That's my guy right there.
Yeah. Oh man, Ambrose, Carter, and Obama were both well known for handling lots of nuts.
Oh my god,
amazing. Man, Wonderland Shadow, time for a constitutional convention. If you think that democracy is fake and gay right now, wait until we have a constitutional convention. That would I don't know about that. Maybe if the fix was already in, I would support something like that, but yeah. Let's see. As I have said, this was no fluke. No less a person than Zbigniew Brzezinski. I don't know how to pronounce his first name.
Knows.
Knows. We're gonna go with Brzezinski. Had laid out the blueprint for a 1976 presidential winner 3 years earlier. About the time he and David Rockefeller were founding the infamous Trilateral Commission. Said Zibig directly, the Democratic candidate in 1976 will have to emphasize work, the family, religion, and increasingly patriotism. The new conservatism will certainly not go back to laissez-faire. It will be a philosophical conservatism. It will be a kind of conservative statism or managerism. Maybe Brzezinski kind of had a point here. There will be a conservative values, but a reliance on a great deal of co-determination between state and the corporations. Zebig and David must have thought that they had just such a man when they invited Carter to be a charter member of the Trilateral Commission. This is not just theorizing. This is how presidents are made. Peter Bourne, Carter's deputy campaign chief, acknowledged, as quoted in the Atlantic Monthly, of his longtime friend. David Rockefeller and Zebig have both agreed that Carter is the ideal politician to build on. What did David and Zebig want to build? Well, in a letter reprinted in the Trialogue publication on the Trilateral Commission, Brzezinski came out for a more just and equitable world order. Innocuous enough, unless you know it is insider talk for a new world order or world government. And Jimmy Carter wrote a similar it's really funny that he says that sounds innocuous enough, because the phrase a more just and equitable world order sets off more alarm bells for me than new world order.
That's all of them.
Yeah, doesn't it? Like it's just constantly like, you know, it's more alarming than New World Order. And Jimmy Carter wrote a similar missive to the same publication, speaking of, for the moment, Japan, Western Europe, and North America, and making the assertion that as president-elect, this cooperation is essential not only for our three regions, but in the global search for a more just and equitable world order. This parroting of Ziebig is no coincidence. Mr. Brzezinski helped found the Trilateral Commission because before Carter named him as National Security Advisor, and this despite the fact that the man believes nationhood is outdated. Ziebig was believed by friends to be as close to David Rockefeller as Henry Kissinger was to Nelson Rockefeller in the ostensible opposition party. In fact, columnist Paul Scott reported in his column December 3rd, 1976, colleagues of Brzezinski consider his views and methods on the major foreign policy questions almost identical with those of Secretary of State Kissinger. They stress that he has supported Kissinger's policies of détente with the Soviet Union and Communist China. Like Kissinger, Brzezinski believes that a new pattern of international politics is emerging, which will curb national sovereignty and lead toward the development of a new international order. Watch for this phrase, new international order. It's the tip-off. Wow. This is the view of the man who became Carter's top campaign foreign policy aide and then national security advisor. The old framework of international politics, with their spheres of influence, military alliances between nation states, the fiction of sovereignty, doctrinal conflicts arising from 19th century crises, is clearly no longer compatible with reality. The national state, what interesting, the national state, nations, let's just say nation state, as a fundamental unit of man's organized life has ceased to be the principal creative force. International banks and multinational corporations are acting and planning in terms that are far in advance of the political concepts of the nation state. When Jimmy Carter was running for president in North Carolina, for example, he hit at the non-elected professional politicians of Washington, who, he said, feared him because they supposed they could not control him. Sure. And what happened? William Hoare described the next step in September of 1976. Among the movers and shakers to rally to the Carter bandwagon, registered as anti-establishment vehicle, they had been a who's who of the establishment left. There is John F. Kennedy's speechwriter, Theodore Sorensen, who wrote Profiles in Courage for the Great Pretender of Camelot.
The Pretender of Camelot.
Yeah.
Harsh.
LBJ's top aide, Joseph Califano. Longtime Red appeaser, W. Averell Harriman. Liberal former defense officials Cyrus Vance, Paul Warnke, and Paul Nitze. Elitist auto magnate Henry Ford II. UAW President Leonard Woodcock, former State Department surrender specialists like Richard Holbrooke, now editor of the screamingly liberal Foreign Policy magazine, and even McGovern's Kissinger, Harvard professor Abram Chase. All of the above, except Ford, as chance would have it, are members of the Rockefeller establishment's powerful Council on Foreign Relations. The nominees for Carter's Kissinger frequently include Columbia's Richard Gardner, who has expressed hopes that an end run around national sovereignty, eroding it piece by piece, will accomplish much more than the old-fashioned frontal assault, end run mentioned, which may be why Henry Kissinger has proclaimed an anticipated foreign policy as compatible with his own. It is the same Rockefeller Council on Foreign Relations party policy. Sorry, man. Boy.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Chat's still going crazy.
Yeah.
Wonderland Shadow still advocating for a constitutional convention. The union can't stand it. I'm not sure. I think a strong man is the best option either. Sometimes smaller is better.
I mean,
Yeah, Yeah, it's pretty fucking hard. I'm not
like there are a lot of issues with. I don't think we've ever amended the Constitution by convention, because like the infamous Article 5 convention has. You need. I think is it 2/3 of the states have to call one, but there is no. That's all it says. So there's not really any constraints. Like if you tally them all up, we should have one now, because like over the course of the last 100 years or something, like 37 states or so have called for one. There's no formal expiration date on how long, there's no shelf life on that call for a constitution. So theoretically, in the strictest theoretical terms, we're there. We should be doing one. But like nobody really believes that like shit Nebraska said 150 years ago really reflects how they feel now. So it's like, it's almost like when you talk about ways that you can amend the Constitution, the path is narrow. The last time we did it was the 25th, I think. And it's hard to imagine. It's almost impossible to imagine Americans all agreeing on something enough.
I kind of like the idea of so one of the funniest possibilities of a constitutional convention is if we started doing smart contracts for all laws. Because then you would have things that truly does not expire. Right.
Yeah, I mean that's actually. I mean I'm enough of a.
Than like, oh, surprise! The smart contract that runs the government says that slavery is legal again or something.
Right. I'm enough of a crypto bro to like think that's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, okay, straight up Wonderland Shadow. I would say that I don't think it's hard to. It's not inherently hard to imagine that that we would have a constitutional convention. All you would have to do is have a strategy for going into it and just make it happen. Like send the order to, the lower downs to make it happen. Right. Like theoretically, there are almost enough states where Trump could say, have a constitutional convention, get all of the houses and legislatures together to do it. But the problem is that once you have the constitutional convention,
what the hell comes out?
Fuck. Right. It's not clear. Like no one that it's such a major gambit that you would have to have an unbelievable amount of preparation in order to capitalize on it and not lose something unbelievable.
Do you really want Nancy Mace to have a serious say in what the new Constitution is?
And more to the point, I definitely wouldn't want to have a constitutional convention until we have a lot more deportations, because I definitely don't want I don't want representation being apportioned to people whose districts are comprised entirely of illegals. So and there are lots. I mean, there are a bunch of people in Congress who are literally there because of illegals. So, and I don't even necessarily mean that the illegals are voting. I mean that they're counted in the census, and so the district exists because of the illegals are counted as residents for the purposes of that. So, yeah. Anyway, let's see. Things were starting to get sticky before votes were cast. So good old boy Hamilton Jordan reassured the readers of Playboy that if after the inauguration you find a Cy Vance as Secretary of State and Zbig Brzezinski as head of national security, then I would say we failed and I'd quit. But that's not going to happen. You're going to see new faces, new ideas. The government is going to be run by people you have never heard of. Oh no, we're going to do things to you that, yeah. That's a great overpromise. Would you call that reverse precognition? Promises are something to be elected with, not necessarily kept. At least that was the premise of the Carterites. A month before the 1976 election, syndicated columnist Warren Brooks listed some of the more prominent IOUs that Carter had run up. Pledges from a man who vowed, "I will never promise you anything that I do not intend to deliver." And crap, I didn't do the voice. Let's see. "I'll never promise you anything that I do not intend to deliver. And the value of my candidacy is that I do not owe anything to anyone. And I am not the captive of any special interest." But he was a captive not only of the Trilateralists and Council on Foreign Relations, but also of every liberal group that he could bribe with taxpayers' money. Mr. Brooks noted several pre-convention promises to the mayor's conference, up to $14 billion in contra-cyclical spending programs, to the National Education Association, $20 billion in new public funding, and to union leaders George Meany and Leonard Woodcock, a commitment to pass the socialist Humphrey Hawkins Employment Act. Large corporations were promised there was nothing to fear from tax reforms. Ralph Nader received a pledge for a consumer protection agency. A vow was made for the passage of a compulsory comprehensive national health insurance program. Home builders were assured of a subsidy on mortgages above 7%, and the governor's conference was the site of the Carter vow for a guaranteed income support program as part of welfare reform. When you add up all these, man, some of these fucking things, like, sound pretty modern, don't they?
Yeah,
they're just trying to just push those through.
I mean, they've been trying to do this for a while. It just wasn't as efficient.
That's right. Let's man, all right. When you add up all of these promises, concluded economist Brooks on October 1st, you get a tally that approaches the range of 100 to 200 billion in new spending for the nation. Fuck, should have done it then. It was way cheaper. All of this was supposed to be done at the same time that the budget was balanced. 90% of people received a tax cut, and only those earning more than $25,000 annually would pick up the tab. Oof. Oh, God. If you're making less than $25,000 annually, God bless you.
I mean, that was.
I know. It is pre-Carter inflation.
I wonder what it comes out to. I don't care enough to look it up, but it's probably about on par with 50K.
Yeah. The Georgians seemed to wait. You think it was 50K? I think it was more than 50K.
Yeah, I mean, I was lowballing.
Yeah. Wait, what year was this? 75, I guess it would have been.
Yeah.
Hold on. $25,000 in 1975 is how much in today's dollars? Let's see. Wow. Okay. You want to revise that at all?
No.
You want to revise? Okay. $149,250.
That doesn't seem right.
1975. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Carter inflation, it was significant, and then we just went through another cycle of near hyperinflation. So
I can see how linearly that seems to work out, but I'm sure this is not. I'm sure this is one of these instances where the formula deviates from represented reality. Maybe not by much, but God, that seems kind of high.
Yeah,
I mean, I could be wrong.
Well, again, that was so based on this. On that being the top tax bracket,
yeah,
150K is the top tax bracket.
Yeah, it's true.
It actually sounds kind of low, right? Like the top tax bracket being 150K seems like a low bottom range for the top tax bracket today.
This is why people screech about inequality. By the way,
What?
Because the divergence between the top and bottom have become so wide.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are some. Yeah, I guess there are some people who are actually living on $25K a year. So,
shit, it's about what I have. It's about what I live on.
I was not dunking on you when I said that.
I know.
But yeah. Well, as soon as you make that $25,001th, you're going to start paying your fair share.
You're start paying your goddamn fair share of taxes, boy.
The tax rate is 100% over $25,000.
Well, I mean, in that tax code, anything above the highest tax bracket, it got taxed a lot. Like France level taxation.
Yeah, but like also no one did that. Like
True.
if you were making that much money at that time, you were able to
the salary thing.
Yeah, you're able to structure your assets in such a way that you were not paying that. Like no one ever actually paid that.
Like somebody like professional athletes probably,
Yeah, just the highest paid W-2 employees just get fucked. Yeah. Anyway. All right. The Georgians seem to imitate one another in this regard. Remember the Ham-Jordan pledge? Yes. Vance wound up at state, while Ziebig took over National Security Council. As summarized by Patrick Buchanan, good old Pat, after Carter beat Gerald Ford by a popular vote margin of 40.8 million to 39.1 million in an electoral vote edge of 297 to 241. No fewer than 8 of Carter's top choices, his Veep, the Secretary of State, Defense, Treasury, HUD, HEW, the head of the CIA, and the head of the National Security Council, are members of the Council on Foreign Relations. The Green Book, that liberal elite whose failure of nerve poured down the sewers of Southeast Asia, the ultimate sacrifice of 50,000 American men. At State and Defense, we have Vance and Harold Brown, 2 establishment ex-hawks who turned dove fashionably about the time they left the Vietnam mess on the incoming Nixon administration. As head of the CIA, we have Ted Sorensen, a conscientious objector during the Korean War and confidant to the brothers Kennedy during the years when the CIA was running what LBJ once called a damned murder Inc. in the Caribbean. See, even LBJ didn't run the CIA. Quote, which is signed Larry LA for Larry Abraham. That is the C. Even LBJ didn't run the CIA is the only editor's aside we've seen so far. At HEW is Joe Califano, the Johnson aide, most closely identified with the Great Society social programs, so caustically criticized by Carter himself in the primaries. As head of the Council on Economic Advisors, we have Charles Schultz, the cartoonist who drew the Peanuts, a Brookings boy and budget bureau director for LBJ when the nation was told it could have Vietnam guns and Great Society butter all at the same time. The single decision most responsible for the economic disasters of the decade past. The foundation, business, and media elites are well hired in. There are 2 directors of the Rockefeller Foundation in the cabinet, 3 directors of IBM. Counting Carter and Mondale, there are 6. This was early in the game. Top of government officials who belong to the David Rockefeller subsidiary known as the Trilateral Commission. The lawyer for the Washington Post sits in the new cabinet, as does 1 director each. The New York Times and Los Angeles Times. Doesn't it kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, isn't the Trilateral Commission basically like mold buggy and formalism?
Yeah, pretty much,
right? It's kind of like what he just, it's kind of like exactly what he describes.
Yeah, exactly.
But something strange was starting to happen. The media, all across the political spectrum, were picking up and publicizing the fact that the new faces on the Carter team were the same old establishment players, especially in foreign policy. Robert A. Manning wrote in Penthouse, the soft porn monthly that mixed libertarianism with libertinism, that there can be no doubt that David Rockefeller and his Trilateral Commission have succeeded in seizing control of America's foreign policy. So what else is new? Isn't it funny how porn magazines are like inevitably just like a heroic thing for libertarians?
Yes.
Like
yeah,
like Hustler.
It's like yeah, there could be a pornographic magazine that gets hit by a car, they'll throw their body in front of it.
It's like freedom of speech. Exactly. Oh man. Yeah. Let's see. The moderate U.S. News and World Report for February 21st, 1977, picked up the theme. The trilateralists have taken charge of foreign policy making in the Carter administration. And already the immense power they wield is sparking some controversy. Active or former members of the Trilateral Commission now head every key agency involved in mapping U.S. strategy for dealing with the rest of the world. Altogether, 16 high posts in the administration are held by men and women associated with that organization. Some see this concentration of power as a conspiracy at work. San Francisco Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. We're getting close to time. I'll wrap it up.
Oh, we are fucking overtime. So, and we're not going to make it through this. So, let's just cut her. Let's just fucking cut her.
Wonderland Shadow says Sandy would be so happy with 25,000 cash each year, but 500,000 in investments. You don't understand how happy I would be in that situation. Like that's like that to like in my world, that's fuck you money. It's like, yeah, I could like that'd be fine.
I mean, that'd be pretty good. Like, you know, and that's like you living out of a shoebox or whatever. And
I would be in fucking Southwest Arkansas. Absolutely.
Just being able to like do your projects.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that sounds great. That does sound great. If I had to spend, I don't know, if I had to spend a few years trying to do that, I guess I'd be fucked because I'd lose my fucking house and everything. So
right. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming not really like most of that 25,000. I mean, housing is where most of that goes, and like we have to be like, it's like cheap out, and like that's like, you know, like if you have that, like there's like fucking women that won't just fuck you one night and then be like, I'm out of here, nigga. Then like, you know, there's like a little more, some more intake there. I'm getting dangerously close to y'all should go buy me coffees and shit. Otherwise, I'm gonna do something like get a corporate job.
Yes. Well, I guess we have not mentioned super chats even once this whole show. But you can super chat this show. If you want money to only go to Sandbatch, you can buy him a coffee.
Yeah.
The link is in his Twitter profile, which is very easy to find at x.com/csandbatch at csandbatch.
You know, I'm getting well known enough at this point that Google picks me up.
Interesting.
It's funny.
Yeah. Well, folks, I think we are just about done here. So, we will see you next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Do you have anything coming up this week that you want to shill, Sandbatch?
I'm gonna be out of pocket most of the week because I'm going hiking, and then we're doing some OGC stuff. But I think soon John D and Prude and I are going to do a pretty long stream on Twin Peaks: The Return. So it's season 3 of Twin Peaks. That should be fun. And then I have the program working now, so I'm gonna ask. When I started doing book posting and that sort of thing, I used to tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm not going to tell you to buy this book. I'm going to tell you to read it. This may be the only time in my life I ever directly ask you to purchase something. So I'm gonna ask you to spend money on me, and
I will shill for Sandbatch. Go ahead and yeah, when his book comes out, I'm gonna shill it like a motherfucker.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be so covetous on your behalf. You're gonna lose your mind. You're gonna say, "Oh my God, this guy! Please stop boosting me."
It's dangerously, maybe. I don't want to say this about myself, but it might be good. Like, it's like when I show it to people, like, because I have this like really incredibly if you've ever met me, you know, like this actually is very frustrating for people, because like I don't have a great barometer for whenever I've done something that's like got any value whatsoever. And so like I have 3 chapbooks that I've printed out, and I've been passing them out around town, and like when people read them, they're like, "What the fuck, dude?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Is it any good?" And they're like, "Dude." And I'm like, yeah.
Wait, why
you're not answering? You're not answering the question.
You haven't sent me any. You haven't sent me any of those. You son of a bitch.
This has only been like a week.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, and I'm reformulating them right now, because I don't really like the way one of the covers turned out. But yeah, okay. No, what I have 3 micro chapbooks, if you're familiar with that designation. So. And they're built on it. So the way I've done all of these things, I actually even talk about this a little bit. The way I've done all of these things is I've organized them thematically. So I have 3 small chapbooks that are premised on the concept of obsession, ruin, and desire. And then I have a very nearly miniature epic length book of like sort of related poems that are, can't call them anything but Southern Gothic. And I didn't mean to set out and write Southern Gothic, but I did. And that's pretty cool. So I end up being like kind of happy with it. So I don't mind asking for money for stuff that I'm like, shit, maybe that was pretty good. Oh, very cool.
Well,
I'm not sending Sandbatch money. I'm not sending, fucking Oswald art. You don't have to.
All right, fellas. Well, we're all waiting with bated breath. It smells like low tide at the pier over here, because we are waiting for the Sandbatch chapbooks.
I haven't showered. That's what that is. But the
Vulpus Persona, thank you for the $20.
Yeah.
And he says, "Thanks, boys." Yes, I appreciate it. I love doing this show. It's very reinforcing to get tipped. So I
actually don't remember what I did to Oswald art to generate this and it's got to be something Flannery O'Connor related. It must have been.
Wow, it's going to be great when it's not. Anyway, all right, we will see you next week. You can see me next up on Drive Time Movie Night every Wednesday. But you probably know that. So we'll see you.
You're discouraged from questioning and thinking critically. You must accept the word of the leaders. They make you feel guilty if you do question or argue. Your environment is often controlled, cutting you off from friends, family, school, previously held beliefs. They want you to become dependent, provide a poor diet, poor health care, little sleep, and long, exhausting hours of work to make you physically weak and lower your ability to think clearly. Subtly, your self-confidence gets undermined, and your self-image or sense of identity is changed. The leaders control channels of communication. They cut off or put down outside sources of information. Then they bombard you with what they want you to think. They use strong peer pressure, playing on your desire to be loved and accepted. The leaders may promise rewards if you obey them and punishment if you don't, but they alternate harshness and leniency in order to confuse you. The leaders manipulate language, giving special meanings to words that only insiders understand. This is to make you feel like you're part of a special, important, or elite group, and that outsiders are inferior, dangerous, or doomed. You have to confess your shortcomings, mistakes, or misbehavior, sometimes even if these things never really happened. And meanwhile, your time and activities are tightly controlled. You don't have much privacy or energy or time to think because you're too busy doing monotonous, repetitive tasks. The leaders try to control you and even your sexuality, everything about you. They want to exploit you for their own enrichment, their own power or grandiosity. If they succeed, you will declare your loyalty to its leaders, rejecting your old values and way of life. Without realizing it, you will have been changed into a person who is being controlled by a totalist cult.